Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to go here. 58. Hello and welcome to New Jersey Election Night presented by Montclair State University. I'm Laura Jones. It is primary election day in New Jersey and voters are casting their ballots. Tonight we are deciding party nominees for governor and the state assembly, as well as some county and local offices across the state. This is the first major election since the 2024 election, and it is a critical step in shaping New Jersey's political future. On New Jersey has a team of reporters spread out at campaign headquarters across the state, ready to bring you live results, candidate reactions, and in-depth coverage as the night unfolds. I am joined in the studio tonight by my longtime friend and colleague, political analyst Jim McQueeney. Jim, this could be a long, long night. We've got a long list of candidates.
Well, you know, it is all that, and it's very, very expensive, this race as well. But the really interesting thing is that the winner in the Democratic primary is going to win by losing 80% of the vote. Why? Because he or she is going to only really get, by estimates here, 20 to 23% of the vote here. So 80% of the state will have voted for a loser.
80% of those who actually showed up to vote.
Well, yeah. Well, they didn't have to show up today because there was nearly 500,000 people who did that vote by mail thing or some early voting thing like that, which is also very interesting because it is an effect on every race, including the governor's race. Why? Because party organizations are better at drumming up that kind of early support because they have a base of supporters. They may have lost the bracketing line, which is the big issue here in New Jersey politics with this election. You can't put yourself on a favored line anymore. The county party people can't put you in a better ballot position. And so you're looking at a situation where there's a little bit of chaos, right, on here. But on the other hand, people don't know what to do on a license the first time. So there is democracy afoot here in this particular primary election.
All right. And we have a crowded field of candidates on both the Republican and Democratic side looking to succeed Governor Phil Murphy, who is term limited. The Democratic field includes 6 major contenders: Ros Baraka, the mayor of Newark; Steve Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City; Mikey Sherrill, congresswoman from the 11th District; Josh Gottheimer, congressman from the 5th District; Sean Spiller, president of the NJEA and former Montclair mayor; and Steve Sweeney, former state Senate president. On the Republican side, there are 5 candidates: Jack Ciattarelli, a former state assemblyman who is also the 2021 nominee endorsed by President Trump; Don Bramnick, state senator; also Bill Spadea, who is a former radio talk show host; and Mario Kranjak, who is the former mayor of Inglewood Cliffs. Justin Barbera is a contractor and a 2024 congressional candidate. So, Jim, let's set the primary stage here. We have covered a lot of campaigns going back to 2000. That is a quarter of a century that we have been doing this.
Yeah, a lot of gubernatorial elections.
So what are your thoughts? What strikes you about 2025?
Well, what strikes me is the chaos, the party chaos, because the party organizations, as I said before, have really lost control over how they can endorse and support their candidates, both on the Republican side and the Democratic side, but it's more profound on the Democratic side. You had a lot of late entries into this thing. Mikey Sherrill, for instance, was the perceived front runner. I have a gut feeling that Steve Fulop is a lot closer to Mikey Sherrill than most people believe. Generally, the polling shows it's a 4-point, 5-point difference between them. And then there's the also rans underneath, not to offend anybody who ran and spent a lot of money, and it's a lot of money that was spent on this thing. But the Democratic side tonight is going to prove a lot more interesting, and it might be a late night. If it's a late night, it means that Sherrill is in trouble.
Okay, all right. Well, this is the first election since the presidential election, so there are going to be a lot of eyes on this. There are only 2 states electing a governor this year, Virginia and New Jersey. Also, this is kind of a bellwether, would you say, for the midterm elections coming up in 2026. So a lot of eyes watching New Jersey. What's
There
it
is.
mean?
The interesting thing is why this is of national interest right now is because Virginia, the only state that has an off-year gubernatorial election, as you said, they already had their primary. So they've picked 2 female candidates who are going to run in Virginia in November. But here in New Jersey, we have this one going on right now. And whether it's a bellwether or not, I think it's too early to say anything about the midterms, but it is something that through the night we're going to talk a lot about. What does it mean, and we'll talk to a lot of people out in the field as well as consultants here, but what is the Trump factor? What was it that Princess Diana said, there's 3 of us in this marriage, right? Well, in this election, between the 2 that are going to be the standard bearers for the Republicans and the Democrats, there's going to be Trump. So he's going to be the 3rd person in that marriage in this campaign. To what extent? We don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, the Democrats all came together on positioning their campaign as they're the best person to take on Donald Trump. Whereas on the Republican side, Trump endorsed Jack Ciattarelli. Bill Stadia was very clear on saying he didn't endorse Jack Ciattarelli, he endorsed a poll.
Well, the Republicans are walking a very fine line, especially Ciattarelli. The quote by Donald Trump that said, he's a MAGA man, this kind of thing, that doesn't help you in New Jersey as much as you think. Now, the Republicans as a party, the polls show, they're more united here. Now, of course, Republicans are slightly smaller in the number of them. Democrats outnumber Republicans by a significant amount here. But the real thing, the real voters in the general election now coming forward are the independent voters. They really dominate everything. And so far in New Jersey, Phil Murphy, the Democrat, on last re-election, he only won by about 4 points. This kind of a call for change among the electorate in New Jersey. They don't know, especially Democrats, which way to change. Progressive, and we see in the primary here, the progressive positions have been staked out mostly by Ras Baraka and what's going on there. Kind of conservative, middle of the road, which is what Mikey Sherrill is trying to do. But the big change agent, I think, and his commercials have been fabulous, is Steve Fulop on here. Have you seen those commercials?
I've seen. How can you not see the commercials? He's bombarding social media. There seems to be so much Steve Fulop. And when people talk about who's favored to win, the polls are showing Mikey Sherrill. But if you are somebody who's on the, not necessarily a political insider, you're seeing a lot of Steve Fulop. I've been seeing Steve Fulop now for 2 years on billboards.
Yeah, absolutely. And the television commercials that he's done are by far best of class of everybody who's running the Democratic primary here. But one of the issues is the primary voter in the Democratic Party, and the Republican Party too, is generally an older viewer. And the reason you see so much television rather than social media, digital media, although Fulop does a lot of that digital media, and so do the other candidates right now, but the older voter are the only ones still watching television, linear television, right? Everybody else is scattered over so many other platforms, right? So that's one of the things.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to check in with our reporters in just a few minutes. We've got them stationed throughout. We are also going to be checking in with other key legislative races. The legislative races that we're going to be covering are the 32nd District in Hudson County. We're also going to be covering the 37th Legislative District in Bergen County and the 39th Legislative District. That's up in Bergen County. And if we can go ahead and just kind of get that prompter to move ahead past all of the candidates and on to our next guest, because we are about ready to welcome David Wildstein on to the show. Again, we've got 40 primaries altogether in the state legislature. But again, we are going to be joined now by David Wildstein. He is the editor of the New Jersey Globe. David, we're going to be coming to you throughout the night tonight. You're crunching the numbers. You've had your eyes out all over everything. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're hearing? The polls are still open, by the way, until 8 o'clock.
They are. They are. And first of all, I have to say, I feel like I just got off a time machine seeing you two sitting up there together again. And I'm waiting for Kornacki and his khakis to pull up next to you. But
we need Kornacki with the numbers. We need him in his khakis.
It is just great that you gotten the band back together. You know, I'll tell you what's happening is all day long I'm on the phone with people, as you two are, trying to find out what's happening. And almost universally, nobody's any help to me at all because everybody is telling me our numbers look great for us, bad for the other guy and or the other woman. And so, you know, you're hearing at this point in time, with the polls still open for another 50 minutes, a lot of anecdotal stories that we're all going to toss out in about an hour.
Hey, David, what do you feel about the anecdotal perception of how the voting has gone in terms of turnout? Turnout is actually going to be such a deciding factor in this particular Democratic primary, right? So the word on the street is that it was light. But again, nearly 450,000 people already voted, but light turnout. Does light turnout threaten Cheryl?
First of all, I don't know that it's light turnout because I'm seeing some numbers that point to total being about 650,000 voters, and that's not bad. And does it help Cheryl or hurt Cheryl? Tell me, in Essex County, are the votes coming from the South and West and Central wards in Newark, or are they coming from, Livingston and Milburn and West Caldwell, West Orange? So I really don't know. I'm seeing good news and bad news for everybody all over the state, depending upon sort of which way they want to will this to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think on Essex County, though, David, and you're from Essex County, right, on here and spent your life there, but that suburban part of Essex County, Mikey Cheryl is really counting on securing, and everybody is saying that, well, the Newark base for Ras Baraka is all his, basically, right? But the Democratic performance of Newark voters in the last few elections has been pretty poor in turnout on the thing. So I don't know how much of a bang that a Ras Baraka would get when you say that the turnout is bigger in that area in Essex.
Yeah, and Jim, you saying the turnout has been poor in urban areas over the last decade is being benevolent of you. It has been horrible. And Democrats like Phil Murphy 4 years ago won re-election on the backs of suburban voters, people that, back, a generation ago when you were covering politics as a newspaper reporter and I was out there as an operative, these were the Republican strongholds. Now they are, an integral part of the Democratic base.
That suburban, David, that suburban vote you talk about here, that's sort of deteriorating for Democrats, is dominated by independent voters, right? And Bergen County has nearly 1 million people and is the biggest one. We have some races up there that I think you're looking at as well to see whether there's some Democratic attrition, if you will, because of the ballot changes and the like. What are you picking up there about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching Josh Gottheimer's numbers. He's, I'm seeing sort of a lower than expected turnout in Bergen County. Nothing that's going to badly affect people like that you're watching for very carefully. But for Gottheimer, without the lines, I mean, you remember, and I'm going way back, you talk about when Andy McGuire ran for the U.S. Senate and came out of Bergen County with like 75% of the vote. Without the line, those days are gone. And Gottheimer doesn't represent the whole county. He's going to be looking to add some margin there. But I'm going to look at like District 37 for the Assembly and see if that Assembly race, 6 candidates, 2 of them named Park in a district that's got a heavy Orthodox Jewish population, heavy Hispanic, heavy Black, heavy Korean American, and all of these communities are playing there. I don't know what that means for the assembly race, but I also don't. I would imagine that all of that competition is good for Josh Gottheimer.
Well, in Bergen County, while the line is gone, Josh has the top position on that ballot. He drew the favorable draw for his name alone, right? As he has it for Hudson, and as he has it, I think, for Essex too, right?
I think he does, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking at a name at the top. You
Right.
think that would be an extreme help for people who are voting in those three dense counties?
Yeah, it should be, and there's some history that says that the top, people vote for the first name. But then again, we've got a primary where, as of last week, it was $125 million spent on this primary. And, if people aren't learning the names of the candidates and they don't go in there and with the knowledge of this is who I want to vote for, not just, walking in blindly and saying, well, this is the first name and I sort of like the slogan, I don't know what all that money's done either. So, we're in uncharted territory right now.
Well, David, you've been calling this New Jersey Super Bowl, and when you look at the amount of money that's been spent, this is setting records throughout the country, not just in New Jersey. No amount of money has been spent. $122.5 million. That might even be inaccurate as we come up, the final stretch here. So, can you just talk a little bit about that and give us some perspective here on all this money that's being spent?
I mean, it's crazy. We're looking at, that $122 million was a week ago, before everybody's last week of television. And we're talking about record amounts of money. And John Corzine's not even on the ballot. And we're looking at all this. So, that too is worth something. You've got to assume that all of this messaging, the TV and the digital and the direct mail and all these things that really smart comms people are doing is going to be, successful at convincing voters. And I'm personally, just in the last 2 weeks, I'm not even looking at these internal polls anymore because polls have it's gotten more difficult to poll races.
It has indeed. One of the things, though, you were talking about all this money getting all this attention so you can get the name of somebody in your head to vote for, right? But the Eagleton Institute of Politics a couple of weeks ago did a poll and said that a huge majority of people didn't even know who was on the race or that there was an election. What gives?
Yeah, and that poll, unfortunately, this is all part of the whole narrative of what we'll pull apart after we have this election behind us. That poll, when it was released, was a couple weeks old and didn't have the benefit of millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent. So, it's almost like you have a confluence of a new thing here and a new thing there and a new thing up on top and a new thing on the bottom. And we're at this point trying to figure out what it means. And, look, one of the things, Jim, that I learned, and, I kind of think I'm going to say because I'm getting a little excited and I'm going to get in trouble for it. But one of the things I learned in Federal Witness Academy is that when you're asked a question, only answer it if you can answer it truthfully, if you know what you're talking about. And so, I'm going to, I know my friend Dan Bryan is on after me. And I'm probably, setting this, up poorly for him, but we don't know anything right now. And that makes it really hard for all of us to try and predict what's happening. We can make some guesses and we've all, leave Laura out, Jim, you and I have 100 years to combine on doing this stuff. We're doing this. We've seen a lot of races. This is my 14th governor's race. Jim, I think this is if it's my 14th, probably your 16th or 17th. Yeah. And what we're seeing today is different than everything we've seen before. We've seen years in the 80s without lines, but that was only for governor. You still had lines for the legislature and for county offices and local offices. This is all new. And a few years ago, probably 4 years ago, if a candidate had accumulated as many lines as Mikey Sherrill did, you probably would have had other people just say, okay, I'm crying uncle, I'm out of this race, and because I can't win, I don't have the lines. Well, the lines are gone. There was no incentive for anybody to get out early. They mostly qualified for matching funds, which gave them $8.5 million plus all the money from the super PACs. The whole world has been upended, and I don't know what it means right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, David, we're going to be checking in with you throughout the night. We know you're going to have a long night. We don't even know when we're going to go to bed, if we will. But we appreciate your time and your insight and analysis and keeping us on top of things. David Wildstein of the New Jersey Globe.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. And once you stay with us as New Jersey Election Night presented by Montclair State University continues in just a minute.
At Montclair State University, we don't just create opportunities, we transform lives. As a top public university, we deliver an exceptional, affordable education in the heart of the New York, New Jersey region, with access to jobs from Wall Street to Broadway and beyond. Students collaborate with faculty to develop real-world solutions in education, healthcare, science, business, and technology. Join a university that values you, supports you, and prepares you to soar.
Today, 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
We are the pioneers,
the visionaries,
the builders of a growing movement
with the power to democratize the old economic models
and create a world economy of the people,
for the people,
and by the people.
We are crypto.
This is the moment for us to make our voices heard.
We are the catalyst that will create a new world.
With our numbers,
with our voices,
with our votes.
We are crypto.
Welcome back to New Jersey Election Night, presented by Montclair State University. I'm Laura Jones alongside Jim McQueeney. Now, we're going to be throughout the night checking in with our reporters in the field. We're going to go over to Mikey Sherrill's headquarters at the Westin Governor Morris in Morristown with On New Jersey's Dennis Derrick. Dennis, how are you? Good to see you.
Hi there, Laura. I'm inside the ballroom here at the Westin in Morristown, and apologize for the dim lighting here. They've turned the ballroom lights down. They're preparing for a party here. Mikey Sherrill's campaign just outside the ballroom. They've got a full buffet set up, a cash bar, and they're planning for a big crowd here tonight. Of course, the polls are still open until 8 o'clock, and so we're expecting numbers to roll in after that. But I got to tell you, Mike Mikey Sherrill's camp is feeling pretty good. Early polling is suggesting she's got a slight edge over the crowded field of Democrats vying for governor. There are 6 altogether, but Mikey Sherrill is the only woman running. She's a mother of 4, a former Navy pilot, a former federal prosecutor, and now Congresswoman for New Jersey's 11th congressional district, which covers parts of Morris, Essex, and Passaic County. Communities like Montclair, which is her hometown where she's living now, as well as Morris Plains, Morris Town, the area around it, the bedroom communities, as well as Totowa, Belleville, communities like that in the middle of northern New Jersey, if you will. This race really is going to come down to voter turnout. And if you think about it, Mikey Sherrill's top contenders are 2 big city mayors, the mayor of Jersey City, Stephen Fulop, as well as the mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka. Those communities are voter-rich Democratic strongholds. So if there's high voter turnout in either one of those cities, that could really decide this race. But again, Mikey Sherrill's camp planning for a big party here. The lights are low here in the ballroom, but outside, they've got the buffet set up, the cash bar. They're ready for a party if and when the numbers fall Mikey Sherrill's way.
Yeah,
Back
Derek,
to you, Laura.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a follow-up question, Derek. You know, being in the field, sometimes you can get a feeling of the campaign people are around, and if the voters, if their supporters are starting to filter in, or a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, we're cautiously optimistic." Are you seeing any of that action going on behind the scenes? Any of the campaign people working the media, trying to talk to, trying to spin this good night? What are they saying, if anything, at this point?
They've been pretty tight-lipped, but I can tell you this: we were delayed getting set up for almost an hour because they were doing a security sweep of the room, and we're told that Mikey Sherrill was doing speech prep. So that's an indication that she's preparing to say something tonight. Of course, she's hoping it'll be a victory speech. So they did a lot of preparation leading up to allowing the media to come into this room. A big security sweep, debate prep, or I should say speech prep, for Mikey Sherrill. But in terms of, what the campaign is feeling, they're being very tight-lipped about it. They want to wait for those numbers to come in.
Derek, Jim McQueeney here.
Yeah.
2 quick things. An advantage in both, perhaps, for Sherrill. You mentioned the mayors, 2 mayors running against her, where they might draw on their own rich turnout there, and that might be a problem for her. But Mikey got more of the North Jersey party organization endorsements than Central Jersey, and having those, even if you're not on the line that they control anymore, has an abundance of resources, money, get out the vote. Usually labor unions are in line with that type of thing. Is she seeing that as an advantage, aside from the fact 58% of the voters in this primary, Democratic primary, are women, and she's the lone woman standing?
Yeah, a lot of advantages for Mikey Sherrill. Let's start with the Democratic Party support in the various counties, namely Hudson County, where Jersey City is the largest city in that county. Stephen Fulop is the mayor, and yet the Democratic Party machine in Hudson County gave their endorsement to Mikey Sherrill. A number of the other areas as well in the northern New Jersey area. And so that bodes well for Mikey Sherrill in terms of bolstering her feeling about tonight's chances for her in this Democratic primary. But again, she's the only woman in the race. She's counting on women voters, and historically they vote more than men. But it really will come down to turnout. Stephen Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, was quoted as saying this could go any way. It could be a celebration or it could be a funeral in terms of the outcome of this race tonight.
Right, and this is New Jersey. You just don't know. We had rainy weather, so that no doubt impacted turnout. But Derek, you're going to be there throughout the night. We'll be checking in with you. Thank you so much for your insight and analysis and reporting there from the field. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Yep.
All right, now we're going to be joined by Dan Bryan and Alex Wilkes. They are regular columnists for the New Jersey Globe's Stomping Grounds. I believe we have them both here. Good to see you all.
Thanks for having us.
Well, happy Election Day. The polls are still open. Dan, let me go to you. Dan is a Democrat, Alex the Republican. Let's talk a little bit about the Trump effect. I'll go to the Democrat first to ask that. Jack Ciattarelli hasn't trumpeted Trump much. What are your thoughts kind of going into Election Day as the polls are about to close in 30 minutes?
Yeah, listen, I think there's a palpable difference between 2025 and 2027. When Phil Murphy first ran for governor, I think back then everything was Trump 24/7. I think we're seeing in this cycle is opposing Trump is being seen as the floor, not the ceiling, meaning, sure, you're against Trump. That's great. What else do you got for me? That's very much the sense that we're getting in this election. We are getting into agendas. We are getting into the differences in policies of these different candidates. And the one thing that we are seeing, Laura, is we're seeing voters saying, can you win in November? That's been a key quality that they've looked at in this primary.
If I could, Alex, let me ask you from the Republican side here. Laura and I were just looking at a lot of the literature we have here. In case you see it, it's like a dark thing with Trump. Are the Democrats really going to have Trump as an asset going forward, or are the Democrats deluding themselves because it'll be Murphy for the Republicans when they run on this race?
Well, of course, they're the incumbent party, so I think a challenge is they should expect to have to run away from Phil Murphy's record, which most of them supported in some way during their tenures. But I think from the perspective of Donald Trump, we've seen him go from a boogeyman that they put on every single piece of literature. They could almost be a cookie cutter with it and pasting it across the state with everybody's name on it to a world post 2024 where the president lost the state by only 6 points and spent no money here. So that means for the Democrats who are running, many of the undecided voters and the unaffiliated voters, some of their own Democratic members voted for this president. And so I think it's going to be a lot more difficult to run at him or to hang him around anybody's neck because he has an agenda right now that people are broadly supportive of, and Democrats can't seem to stop stepping in it when it comes to embracing these fringe issues like charging a federal immigration detention center, as we saw earlier in the cycle. It seems like this is going to be a difficult path for the Democrats to navigate when they've otherwise had a playbook for the last couple of years.
Dan, I want to go back to you. One of the things Jim and I were talking about as we just started off on the show is the individuals who win tonight are going to be selected by a very, very small group of people, 20%. When you spread the candidates out, that's all they need to win. So when you're looking to November, what needs to happen? And when you look to the Democrats, you had 6 people really, fighting hard against each other. Do you think that the Democratic Party is fractured? And how do they come out of this evening to rally and then win in November?
Yeah, it's a great question, Laura. Listen, you can look at a competitive primary 2 different ways. One is, as you said, it's fractured. I don't see it that way. I think this has been an incredibly competitive primary, hard fought. We're already seeing turnout is going to exceed 650,000, well above what would be expected. So high turnout. It's been a really good race. I think the nominee that the Democratic Party produces tonight is going to be one of the most battle-tested, ready candidates for the general election. Is going to be ready to go against Jack Ciattarelli, whereas Jack Ciattarelli has kind of cakewalked into this primary, right? Not only did he kind of have it easy against Bill Spadea, who I would argue was never a real candidate, he then had Donald Trump come in and endorse him. So he didn't really face a real test in the Republican primary. The Democratic nominee will have faced a very real test.
If I could go back to Alex for a second. Alex, you wrote a piece for the Republican to write. It was interesting, but saying there's a path for Steve Fulop here to beat Sherrill. For our viewers, could you explain what that path is? We might know whether that path is a dead end or working in about an hour or so, I think. But what's that path?
I'm humbled that anyone wants to take this Republican's opinion on the Democratic primary. But, look, I wrote that with the last couple of years of my professional life in politics in mind, really stretching back to 2010 and the Tea Party, going all the way through President Trump and multiple campaign cycles where we've seen a number of competitive Republican primaries, a lot of ups and downs. I've just seen our base be restless, and I've seen what it's like to be out of power and sort of pointing the fingers. And I think that that's where the Democrats are at right now. You have a very angry base. You have a base that is trying to decide between its head and its heart, between electability and what their passion is right now, and what they're excited about. And for Mikey Sherrill, I just don't know if she is that person that is bringing the fire that Democrats want to bring right now to the issues that they care about. So for Mayor Fulop, I'm looking, to see, number one, he's beat the machine before in Hudson County, and we know that Mikey Sherrill has been endorsed by the Democratic Party bosses up there. But he's also the mayor of the largest city, so that has to factor in. We saw a high VBM return rate in Jersey City going into tonight among Democrats, so I would expect that to go in his favor. And look, I think that the other Democrats are going to carve up the pieces of the pie in ways that they will later on perhaps look at for future cycles after this true post-line gubernatorial primary and say, we should have played Let's Make a Deal, right? If you were hoping for a more moderate candidate, or if you were hoping for a more progressive candidate, and instead you kind of get vanilla Mikey Sherrill at the end of this, maybe, somebody would be saying to themselves, oh, well, Gottheimer and Sweeney should have really gotten behind, this person, or, vice versa. I think, though, that for Mayor Fulop, you're just seeing that there are so many ways that this pie is going to get carved up, and it's possible that it doesn't add up to a Mikey Sherrill victory. Look, I can just personally
Alex,
say...
Alex, this isn't partisan disinformation. Is it that Chitterelli wants Fulop in that race because he could beat Fulop, and you're saying this is New Jersey politics?
Look, I think that either Mikey Sherrill or Steve Fulop would be a formidable foe. And fortunately for us, Jack Chitterelli has been through a rigorous gubernatorial election, one where nobody believed that we could win at the time. I mean, I found it difficult in that cycle to convince national political reporters to cover the race because they were simply just looking at one poll that showed Jack Chitterelli down by 11 points. So this was a guy that was scrappy. Dan remembers the debates. This was a guy that was, leaving it all on the table until the end. So I think that he's prepared to match anyone. That being said, I actually do think that there are some advantages to running against Mikey Sherrill. The only thing we really know about her is her background, which is commendable, and I don't think anybody disputes that. However, she's also a creature of Washington, and she has to own all of these bad votes and all of the bad baggage from the Biden administration that people just don't like, and people resoundingly defeated last year. So, look, for Mayor Fulop, he's obviously more on the progressive side, and I think that some of his positions would be a major turnoff to a lot of voters. But at the same time, he has the executive experience of running, a major city, a number of government agencies, a transit department. I mean, he has that executive experience, and I think that it would prove to inure to his benefit should he become the nominee.
All right, well, Dan and Alex, we're going to have to leave it there. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And in just about 20 minutes, we're going to be starting to get some numbers in, and hopefully we'll be checking back with you later on in the evening. Dan and Alex, thank you both so much. Stomping Grounds on New Jersey Globe.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, now, leading up to primary election day, a growing block of voters made its presence known. The crypto community in Jersey City, Stand with Crypto, hosted a rally that blended policy, politics, and pop culture, aiming to turn digital assets advocates into a powerful voting force. On New Jersey's Sophia Braun was there.
With live music, political speeches, and a packed crowd of crypto supporters, the Stand with Crypto rally in Jersey City was more than a campaign event. It was a call to action.
This is technology that can affect the future of our country in a very positive way. So we got to get people mobilized. We got to get people to see how important this stuff is.
Hosted just days before New Jersey's June primary, the Get Out the Vote rally is a part of a growing movement to turn out a new kind of voter, one who wants leadership on cryptocurrency policy and innovation.
As much as we like to focus on technology, it really has to be backed by policy, because tech is really useless without human beings, and human beings is the connective tissue that all tech works on.
According to Stand with Crypto, more than 64,000 advocates are active in New Jersey, which is enough to sway this election. Organizers say ignoring crypto policy is no longer an option.
People have to understand that this world is changing at a rapid rate. So I said, let me get in tuned at a young age so I can figure out, okay, what can I not only have for the long haul, but for generations to come, aka my future children.
Rallies like these are sending a clear message to gubernatorial candidates. Voters want clarity, innovation, and pro-crypto leadership. For On New Jersey, I'm Sophia Braun.
New Jersey Election Night, presented by Montclair State University, continues in just a minute. Stay with us.
At Montclair State University, we don't just create opportunities, we transform lives. As a top public university, we deliver an exceptional, affordable education in the heart of the New York, New Jersey region, with access to jobs from Wall Street to Broadway and beyond. Students collaborate with faculty to develop real-world solutions in education, healthcare, science, business, and technology. Join a university that values you, supports you, and prepares you to soar.
Today, 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
We are the pioneers,
The visionaries,
The builders of a growing movement
with the power to democratize the old economic models.
And create a world economy of the people.
for the people.
By the people.
We are crypto.
This is the moment for us to make our voices heard.
We are the catalyst that will create a new world.
With our numbers,
With our voices,
With our votes.
We are crypto.
Thanks for staying with us and New Jersey Election Night. I'm Laura Jones, and we are joined now by Carlos Ivan Marino. He is the New Jersey State Chapter President of Stand with Crypto. That is a group dedicated to advancing cryptocurrency education and policy. Carlos, thanks for being here on Election Night. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you as well.
All right, well, let's begin with Stand with Crypto's mission. For those unfamiliar with the group, can you explain its purpose and why cryptocurrency is a significant topic in this gubernatorial election?
Yes. Again, thank you for bringing me on. And I just wanted to explain. So, Stand With Crypto, we are an organization. There's 65,000 members throughout the state of New Jersey. And what we want to do is we want to be sure that there is regulatory clarity within the state when it comes to dealing with cryptocurrency. We're seeing that there is some, progress going on at the federal level, and we would like to see that over here at the state level. In the past, if you take a look at New York City, they've implemented like a bit license bill, and what that did was that it had a lot of businesses from New York come over here into New Jersey. If we were to implement something like that, then we'd have jobs leaving New Jersey going to other states that are more crypto friendly. And you have states like Wyoming, that you have like Florida and Texas. And what we want to do is we want to hold jobs here in the state of New Jersey because, we are the pharmaceutical corridor and we are also, like a state of innovation. And what we want to try and do is we want to keep that here in the state. And our goal is to try and, activate the members that we have and through education, show them that, hey, let's work together.
Can you talk a little bit about, you've hosted some events with the candidates. Are there specific cryptocurrency policies that Stand With Crypto wants to hear from the candidates? And also, who do you think, who should regulate crypto in New Jersey?
So what I would say is when it comes to regulation, at the state level, if we can have, I guess, people from the Department of Treasury that can give us some guidance, that could be a good start. And what we're looking is for, legislation that would be like the stablecoin bill, that could be something that could be helpful. But we are seeing something like that happen right now over at the federal level. And also like the clarity bill that's going on, that's also another thing that we're seeing something happen at the federal level. So if that could happen at the state level, that would be something that would be favorable for us.
Yeah, and what are you looking to hear from the candidates?
As of right now, I'm just like listening to see what, first, what are they saying? And then once we do have like a nominee for both parties, start listening to what their ideas are. Because as of right now, there's many different ideas, but we won't know until after 8 o'clock who, what are their like goals for moving the state forward.
Yeah, is there a candidate who backs your position on cryptocurrency?
As of right now, there have like through the past two debates that was done over in Newark, there was no mention of cryptocurrency. So it would be interesting to see what they say after tonight.
Yeah, well,
the nominees.
Well, I know for a lot of people, just the term cryptocurrency can seem daunting. So in simple terms, can you explain what it is and again, why it's relevant to New Jersey residents, voters, particularly in terms of the economic opportunity or financial inclusion?
Sure. So when you take a look at it, cryptocurrency, it's cryptography, it's math. And what happens is that it keeps things transparent. So when you take a look at Bitcoin, for example, the way you move things around is there's always going to be a trace. You can always go back to where it all started. So when you want to talk about transparency, that's transparency at its best. And when you talk about efficiency, you can do what's called a smart contract. And a smart contract, it's like a computer program that it automates certain functions. And by putting that into play, there's certain things that you could do within like either financial or through like I guess like ledgers. You're able to keep track of stuff, and you would not be able to tamper with that, because if you were to do so, you would see where it was being tampered, because there's always like a trace to what you're trying to do. So when you look at what crypto can do, like right now, I would say people are just very excited because they think of magic internet money. But if you really take a look at cryptocurrency, it's more than just money. It is a way to keep things out in the open, keep things transparent, because the one thing, if you look at it, there's always a log of where it started. And that's something that the state could use, like maybe within its like its day-to-day administration. You could possibly use that when it comes to, managing money or managing digital identity or, managing property deeds. There's many different applications that you can use cryptocurrency and crypto and blockchain.
Right. Your organization really talks a lot about voter education. So what has Stand with Crypto done to help voters really understand the implications and try to evaluate the candidates in the primary?
Okay, so what we try and do is we try and let the voters know what are some of the issues that have been talked about in the past, and also some of the issues that are happening up at the federal level. And as I said, recently there hasn't been that much discussion of like a plan as to what the candidates want to do when it comes to policy. That's a question that hasn't really been asked. I know that in public events they have stated certain things, but nothing has really been directed towards the voters that hold crypto. But what we try and do is we try and tell them what's happening right now at the federal level, and then also to just be aware of what may be happening at the state level.
Carlos Ivan Marino, Stand with Crypto, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to bring Jim McQueeney back into our conversation. And what I want to do is also, again, back to setting the stage and talking a little bit about, the historical context here. Jack Ciattarelli has already run for governor twice. This is going to be his third time running for governor. When you're looking at the big picture, it's his third time. You have, 6 Democrats in the field. The most amount of money that's not only been spent in New Jersey, but in the country. This is a lot happening right now and a lot at stake.
Well, unprecedented. By the way, Ciattarelli running multiple times is probably a big advantage. Jim Florio ran a number of times before he was really elected, right? So that's not a sin to be cast against them. I think it's going to be about what they propose for change. I think change is the underlying thing in this gubernatorial election, and it hasn't surfaced quite yet. Because the campaign hasn't begun and they don't have a standard bearer right now. But it's really interesting. Democrats have an uphill climb this year in November. Why? This is called the third term.
I actually want to talk about this because they talk about New Jersey being a blue state. Yeah. Trump came very close last time around, but let's talk a little bit about that.
It's becoming less bluish, let me tell you. Most of the voters that have signed up, new voters in the last 5 years, have been mostly Republican. So that's a growth around central Jersey and the expanding areas. But let me tell you about the third term. These are Democrats after 2 terms of Murphy who want another term with somebody else here, right? A third term, it's called. The last time in New Jersey the Democrats succeeded at a third term was when John F. Kennedy was president. Roger Maris broke Babe Ruth's record for home runs on 65. That's a long time ago, right? And the system has changed, the process has changed, but that tells you how hard it is because you get one-party fatigue, Democratic fatigue. And the Democrats have controlled the legislature, where I used to work, by the way, for Democratic Majority for Speaker Carter, but they've had it now for decades on here. And when you try to defend decades when people are starting to talk about change, you have a hard task. And Ciattarelli has an easier task because he can look in the rearview mirror and shoot backwards at the Murphy years. Whether it's right or wrong, it's going to have some salience because it's going to represent change. So no matter who gets the nomination tonight for the Democrats, it's a hard uphill slog.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing about New Jersey is it does tend to follow a certain pattern. When you look at the governor's race, it goes kind of back and forth between the Republicans and Democrats. It kind of cycles. When you look to the U.S. Senate, it goes back, more than 40 years since they've elected a
Cliff Case,
a Republican. So, it is very interesting. We have more guests with us, so we'll pick up this a little bit later on in the show. But joining us now, I believe we have columnist and host of the dynamic Political Centrist podcast, Alan Steinberg. Alan, how are you?
I'm terrific, and I'm glad to be here with the two people that first introduced me to New Jersey network television interviews, Laura Jones and Jim McQueeney. It's like a family gathering.
It is. The gang's all back. Well, Alan, I want to talk a little bit about how national headlines are impacting New Jersey's race for governor, including the protest in L.A. Can you
I've got something on that.
Yeah.
But I've got something very significant in the early voting that is an ominous omen for Mikey Sherrill. And I've got to talk about this.
Yeah.
The Jewish vote is a subspecialty of mine. I'll get to the Trump factor in a minute. The Jewish vote is a subspecialty of mine, as you know. And Josh Gottheimer, Mikey's going to win tonight, but Josh Gottheimer was the overwhelming choice in all of the various Jewish towns, basically because of his record. And also people questioned Mikey on some of her stances regarding Israel. So if Jack Ciattarelli picks up those votes in November, Jack is the next governor, because the Jewish vote is like 12% of the vote in New Jersey. And usually the Democrats are the big winners in that. But tonight in places like Teaneck, Tenafly, Bergenfield, Lakewood was just an overwhelming landslide for Josh. That is something she's going to have to work on, because if she loses, or if, let's say, she only gets about 60% of the Jewish vote in November, she's going to lose.
Well, it's interesting because you just mentioned in New Jersey politics, what is called, in the colloquialism, Jewish lily pads in New Jersey, the 39th district that where you mentioned there before. And in fact, I'm wondering now if October of 23, that was the Hamas thing, 23, right, in October?
Yes, October 7, 23, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So well, there's some ramifications spilling back from that still, because in that 39th district, that's Loretta Weinberg's old district there right now, and you have a very aggressive race run by, as Laura mentioned before at the beginning, and the complexion of that district is Muslim, Korean, but Jewish, right? And you also mentioned Lakewood.
It's actually the 37th. 37th in Bergen, right, right.
Yeah. You think I know that? I live in Bergen.
Loretta's a guest on my podcast tonight, so I have a great one.
There you go. But also in Lakewood, they're also called colloquially the rabbis down there, where they can turn maybe 10,000 votes.
The VOD, yes.
That's what that's called. That's exactly right. So in the gubernatorial race, you kind of touched on it here, but let me go back to this legislative race here, which is important up in Bergen County. Bergen County being the biggest cache of independent votes, and independent votes determine the election in November, right? So what do you see happening here with this mix? Is this sort of like a lot of the delayed reaction to October 23?
Well, there has been dissatisfaction both with Biden and now with Trump. Trump seems to be drawing away somewhat from Netanyahu, but the real big thing was Mikey herself. She had taken the stances on certain issues like anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, on the international court that was to be basically nullified because that was the court that wanted to arrest Bibi Netanyahu. Her stance was not satisfactory at all, particularly with the Orthodox element of the Jewish community. And I'm not saying she can't come back from that.
If you are right, and Cheryl wins tonight, does Josh Gottheimer go to these Jewish lily pads, we're often called, and have to sell her to the Jewish community, or does Ciattarelli inherit that?
I don't know what Josh is going to do. I don't know what his future plans are. But just for a minute, as to the other issue, this Trump, situation in Los Angeles is a double-edged sword. On the one, it all depends what channel you're watching. If you're watching Fox, you think that these are a bunch of radicals out there that are a threat to law and order. On the other hand, if you're watching MSNBC and CNN, you're seeing that the level of disturbance is very, very small. There was no justification for basically bypassing Governor Newsom and bringing in the National Guard. I'll tell you, the other thing is this could make Gavin Newsom the leading Democrat presidential candidate for 2028, because he's talking to Trump and arguing with him and rebutting him exactly the way rank and file Democrats want him to do. In New Jersey, it's unclear, but Jack is joined at the hip with Trump right now. Now, there's two other Trump issues, which are the tariffs and the Medicaid cuts. The irony is this: if Trump wins those fights, Jack loses, because in New Jersey, those measures are overwhelmingly unpopular. If Trump loses that fight, those issues are off the table, and it's good for Jack in spite of his connection with Trump.
So we're leaving New Jersey with this final comment, but I saw that you wrote today, President Gavin Newsom. Why?
It could be because he's carrying the fight for the Democrats exactly the way the rank and file wants. They have been complaining. Now, Cory Booker gave a marvelous statement on the follies and the negatives of the Trump administration, but it wasn't something that really got the people by the gut. It appealed to their minds. Gavin Newsom is a gut fighter, and rank and file Democrats are going to love the way he's fighting with Trump, because they've been complaining that nobody is carrying the fight to Trump, and Gavin is carrying it. Gavin has done well in every election, and I think that he's someone you're going to have to look at, maybe as the leading contender for 2028.
Okay, Alan, we're going to rely on that prediction and come back to you in 4 years. But in the meantime, we got to get back to the election here in New Jersey.
I owe nothing. Always good to see you. Have a great night.
Yep.
Take care.
All right. Yep. Stay with us as New Jersey Election Night presented by Montclair State University continues in just a minute.
At Montclair State University, we don't just create opportunities, we transform lives. As a top public university, we deliver an exceptional, affordable education in the heart of the New York, New Jersey region, with access to jobs from Wall Street to Broadway and beyond. Students collaborate with faculty to develop real-world solutions in education, healthcare, science, business, and technology. Join a university that values you, supports you, and prepares you to soar.
Today, 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
We are the pioneers,
The visionaries,
The builders of a growing movement
with the power to democratize the old economic models
and create a world economy of the people.
for the people,
and by the people.
We are crypto.
This is the moment for us to make our voices heard.
We are the catalyst that will create a new world
with our numbers,
with our voices,
with our votes.
We are crypto.
and welcome to New Jersey Election Night, presented by Montclair State University. I'm Laura Jones, and joined by political analyst Jim McQueeney. A special welcome to our viewers on C-SPAN. It is 8 o'clock, and the polls have closed across New Jersey, and the final votes in the 2025 primary election have been cast. Tonight, we are deciding party nominees for governor and the state assembly, as well as some county and local offices across the state. This is the first major election since 2024, and it is a critical step in shaping New Jersey's political future. On New Jersey has a team of reporters spread out at campaign headquarters across the state, ready to bring you live results. Now, we have a crowded field of candidates on both the Republican and Democratic side looking to succeed Governor Phil Murphy, who is term limited. The Democratic field includes 6 major contenders: Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark; Steve Fulop, mayor of Jersey City; Mikey Sherrill, congresswoman from the 11th District; Josh Gottheimer, congressman from the 5th District; Sean Spiller, president of the NJEA and former Montclair mayor; and Steve Sweeney, former state Senate president. On the Republican side, we have 5 candidates. Jack Ciattarelli is a former state assemblyman who was also the 2021 nominee endorsed by President Trump. John Bramnick is a state senator, and Bill Spadea is a former radio show talk host. Mario Kranjak is the former mayor of Inglewood Cliffs, and Justin Barbera is a contractor and 2024 congressional candidate. So we are going to get right to it and head to New Jersey's Dennis Derrick. He is live at the Mikey Sherrill headquarters at the Westin Governor in Morristown. Derrick, how are you? Set the scene for us.
Crowded scene, and it's growing by the hour, especially now that the polls have closed statewide in New Jersey. I'm inside the ballroom in the Westin in Morristown. This is where the Mikey Sherrill campaign is set up. They're hoping for a victory party tonight. And I'm joined by Mikey Sherrill's communications director, Sean Higgins. Sean, I said it just a moment ago, party atmosphere, a crowded atmosphere that's beginning to grow. What do we think in terms of chances here?
Yeah, we're feeling really good because Mikey has run a really strong grassroots campaign. We've had more than 2,000 people get involved and volunteer, whether that's making phone calls, knocking doors, sending text messages, and they were all out on the field tonight up until when polls closed. So we're feeling good. We've seen strong turnout where Mikey has a strong base of support. And throughout this campaign, she's talked about her vision for the state to bring costs down, to deliver on the economy while also standing up to the chaos that Trump is causing from Washington. And we've seen that resonate. And so we think Mikey's going in strong tonight because she's left it out all in the field.
You mentioned turnout. It really is about turnout, right? I mean, you think about it, it's 2 of Mikey Sherrill's top contenders, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ras Baraka, the mayor of Jersey City, Stephen Fulop, 2 voter-rich big cities that could sway this election if the turnout is high. What are you seeing in terms of numbers?
Well, when you look at it in context, Mikey has actually ran and won in tough races, and she has actually delivered more Democratic votes than any other candidate in this race, actually more than all of the mayors combined in her races for Congress. So we've seen Mikey turn out the Democratic base better than anybody in this race, and we think that's what she's going to do tonight. And we think that's also why she's the best Democrat to go up against Jack Ciattarelli, because she's run and won in tough races, whereas the mayors in this race have actually never run against a Republican, much less beaten one. And she's the one who can deliver a Democratic win in November, and she can also stand up to Trump in Trenton.
I'm seeing a lot of Mikey Sherrill commercials on the airwaves. The campaign ad buy was something like $3 million, right? Or maybe more than that. Is it just me, or are there a lot more ads playing now leading up to election night?
I think what you're seeing has been a strategic decision by our campaign. We've actually been outspent by the other campaigns and their massive super PACs by almost 6-1. But what we did was we reserved our spending until the end when people were really paying attention and tuning into the race. And that's not what some of the other candidates did. For example, Mayor Fulop burned through all of his cash really early by going up on TV in January, where we kind of held and waited until mid-April when voters were really starting to tune into the race. And when we thought it would be most effective to get Mikey's vision, her story, her commitment to service, and her plans to deliver for the state.
And the other candidates seem to be taking aim at Mikey Sherrill. Is that seem to indicate that she really is a front runner in this race, that they're all focusing their attention on her?
Yeah, look, Mikey has led in every poll that has been taken throughout this race, whether it's been public or internal. But look, she was in the military for 10 years, flying helicopters in the Navy. She can take a punch. She can also throw one. And I think she's run a really strategic and disciplined campaign, focused on her vision, focused on her story and commitment to service. And that's why it's resonating so much across the state.
And in turn, Mikey Sherrill seems to be looking past tonight's Democratic primary and really taking on Jack Ciattarelli on the Republican side, right? As a front runner.
Well, I think what Mikey is doing is talking about the stakes of this election. There are really two different visions about what the future looks like for New Jersey. Mikey is focused on lowering costs, delivering a better future on the economy, and also standing up to the chaos from Trump's Washington. But we need to be honest about what a Jack Ciattarelli governorship would look like, and also nominate a Democrat with a track record of winning tough races, someone who can beat Jack Ciattarelli and prevent him from bringing Doge to New Jersey. He's also said he would never sue the Trump administration for any of their illegal executive orders. And I think we really need a strong Democratic governor to stand up to that, to beat Ciattarelli, and also deliver on the really pressing issues facing New Jersey families.
All right, Sean Higgins, Communications Director for Mikey Sherrill. We'll see how the night goes. Thanks for joining me here.
Thank you.
I want to give our viewers just a sense of the crowd here and the ballroom. You're looking now at really the entrance to the ballroom, and people are gathering, enjoying some of the buffet that's set up, the cash bar as well. But over on the ballroom side, the podium is actually set up for Mikey Sherrill to come out and speak. And at some point earlier this evening, we were actually held outside, all of the media, all of the cameras, while they did a security sweep, and also while Mikey Sherrill did some speech prep at the podium to time out her remarks, to get comfortable with the teleprompter. She did all of that in advance of the polls closing at 8 o'clock just minutes ago. And so shortly thereafter tonight, we'll start getting early results coming in, and we'll see how the night progresses. But Mikey Sherrill's camp feeling very good about their chances tonight based on the limited amount of polling for the state, but also the party endorsements that she's racked up. And she's hoping that women voters will turn out for her, being the only woman candidate in the race. Laura?
All right, Dennis, Derek, thank you so much. We'll be checking in throughout the evening. We appreciate it. We're going to head over now to Ras Baraka's headquarters at the Robert Treat Hotel in Newark on New Jersey's Alvina Alston joins us live. Alvina, how are you? Good to see you.
I am doing great. Laura, you know what? We are here at the main ballroom at the Robert Treat Hotel, and the Ras Baraka campaign says they are hoping this is the spot for a victory party here tonight as the polls have just closed tonight. Just let you know that all eyes are on this campaign, and I'm going to tell you why. There are several reasons, of course, why. There is a slew of candidates, 6 on the Democratic side and 5 on the GOP side. Ras Baraka's campaign has galvanized after his arrest on May 9th and his subsequent lawsuit on June 3rd. The campaign is saying that did not hurt them at all. In fact, it mobilized their campaign. I am here with one of his long-running supporters, Larry Ham from the People's Organization for Progress, who recently endorsed the mayor. It's so great to see you.
It's great to see you,
Yeah,
Alvina.
we have a long relationship for 20 years when I was a reporter here. Tell me about your endorsement and how significant that is for the campaign.
Well, I personally endorsed Mayor Baraka's campaign for governor last year, but the People's Organization for Progress endorsed him about a month ago. And we endorsed him because we thought he was the best candidate. And I think he's run an outstanding campaign. He's crisscrossed this state. He's spoken to the issues. He's been competitive in every category. And I'm looking forward to victory tonight.
That's amazing. But do you think he's done enough to set him apart from the other 5 candidates on the ballot? And then what does this mean for New Jersey? Because although the candidates have different stands in their campaign, they have one common goal, and that is to combat the Trump administration's policies. But what does that mean for New Jersey, and is that enough?
Well, I think Mayor Baraka has done more than enough to set himself apart. In fact, his campaign has garnered national and international attention and he's been endorsed and supported by leaders in all walks of life, by celebrities, and most importantly, I think, by social justice activists. And I believe it is his progressive platform and his stand on the issues that have set him apart and given him a name recognition that, as I said, is national and international.
That's great. Now, as we know, he filed a lawsuit on June 3rd against the state's top prosecutor. Although the charges were dropped, how do you think this will impact him if he is elected governor?
Well, I think that he will continue to fight. Personally, I don't think there's any other candidate capable of effectively fighting Donald Trump as is Mayor Baraka. I mean, he's a fighter, and that's what New Jersey needs right now, because you can look at the fiscal policies of the Trump administration. You see them slashing, making draconian cuts to every program that helps the American people. And right now, we need someone who is not afraid to speak truth to power. And that's what Ras Baraka has done all his life, and that's what he will do as governor.
Thank you so much. Larry Ham, People's Organization for Progress Chairman, we thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Alvin.
Thank you. Back to you, Laura Jim.
All right. Thank you for that report. We are...
It's interesting, though, Alvina interviewing him and his response being that Barack has to mobilize the community, right? Well, the problem with mobilizing the community in the black cities right now is that the black vote is depressed, and especially in Newark, so there's not a lot to get mobilized for you, and especially when Jersey City, another black base, is taken up by another candidate. So I don't know where, but yeah, so we'll see on that.
Okay. All right. We have some numbers that we have in right now. These are very early on, but we are reporting Mikey Sherrill with 13,000 votes so far, 34.8% of the vote. Steve Fulop was 7,919. Ras Baraka, again, this is very, very early on, and we're going to be updating this throughout the night. Josh Gottheimer, again, he has 8% of the vote of 9,753. Steve Sweeney with 17,328. Sean Spiller, 13.7%. Jim, as I'm looking at these numbers and they're playing out, all right, Jack Ciattarelli, 16,071%. Bill Spady at 3,570. John Bramnick, under 2,000. This, we're probably looking at a lot of the early voting, yes?
It is.
And the
There's
vote by mail.
500,000 votes.
Right.
Or more that have to be counted on this
Right.
thing. This is very, very early, and it's not
Right.
It's not personifying anything other than we have something
Other
to
we have
report.
a few numbers. We have a few numbers. All right. We're now going to go over to On New Jersey's John Bathke, who's live at Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters at Bell Works in Homedale. John, so good to see you. Can you tell us what's happening in Monmouth County tonight?
Well, good evening to you, Jim and Laura, and the room is just starting to fill up. As you know, the polls have closed. People are now arriving here, supporters of Jack Ciattarelli, for what they hope will be a victory speech to be delivered here at the Bell Works building in Homedale. Let's just take a look, if we could, just so you get a sense of the room that we're in. This is sort of the victory party room, what they hope. There's a lot of food over here and barbecue pits going, and a lot of Republicans who are supporting Jack Ciattarelli who have come out tonight to hopefully celebrate this. You know, this is Jack Ciattarelli's third attempt at becoming the governor of New Jersey. He narrowly lost 4 years ago, nearly unseated Phil Murphy. And so he is hoping to get another shot, another nomination to get his chance at being in the governor's mansion. Now, he is just a little bit about Jack Ciattarelli. He is a former state lawmaker. He is a former county commissioner. He is a business person, and he has made the affordability of New Jersey and taxes in New Jersey a major issue in his campaign. There's another big factor in this race, and that is the endorsement of President Donald Trump. Jack Ciattarelli received that endorsement several weeks ago. It was a very coveted endorsement. One of his opponents very much also was hoping for that endorsement. It didn't happen, that despite Ciattarelli having made some critical comments about the president when Donald Trump was first running for president in 2015 and 2016. And so he did receive that endorsement, which he was hoping would seal the deal with the Republican primary base. So we are going to be standing by here tonight. We expect him to be speaking to the audience a little later. I also just think it bears mentioning where we are tonight. We are in the Bell Works building. This is the former Bell Labs. This is a building that represents a great deal in the history of New Jersey in terms of innovation and invention. A lot of it was here when Bell Labs was occupying this space, and now it is used for other purposes, offices and retail. And it may look familiar to you because the series Severance is also used as a location here. Part of the TV series Severance is shot here. So this is an iconic location within the state of New Jersey where this event is being held tonight. Jim and Laura.
Really loud there because AP has just announced that they've called the race, and they have called it for Jack Ciattarelli. So we will be heading back to you throughout the night with what we are planning on, a victory speech, probably in the not so distant future. But John, thank you for that report there, and I'm sure we'll be heading to you again in the not so distant future. So Jim, that didn't take long.
No, it didn't take long. It wasn't much of a surprise, right? It'll be real interesting when we go back to John later when Jack gives his speech, because he has a path that he can represent that's easier to make for change, because all he really has to do is criticize the 8 years of an incumbent Democratic governor. That's pretty easy, right? Now he's got a little bit of a burden here where Trump, whether Trump is doing better come the third quarter of the year financially and stuff like that, or whether he's doing worse on here because the tariffs and the trade deals weren't done, right? Well, that might be a problem, right? But yet independent voters are going to decide this election in November. Not Democrats outnumber Republicans. Yes, they do. Bismarck said God is on the side of the bigger battalions, right? But in independent votes in November in New Jersey, that's not going to count. It's going to be probably more about change than anything else. So who can frame that change message? It'll be interesting to see that speech that Jack gives on, it'll augur where they're going to go with the campaign through the summer and the fall.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what is coming up next for Bill Spadia, and we're actually going to head over live to Middlesex and on New Jersey's Isabella Galan at Bill Spadia's campaign headquarters at Ellery Grill. Isabella, how are his supporters responding there right now? What's the scene?
The fans here, the supporters here are ecstatic. Their energy is very, very high. And you know what? We started this morning a little rough, not going to lie. It was rainy, it was cloudy, and being outside in the backyard of Ellery's pub and grill, the sun came out, the weather's beautiful, and the fans have definitely showed up and showed out. I'm here with one of those supporters right now, John Eckert. John, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to get involved with Bill Spadia's campaign.
Bill Spadia is definitely the best candidate for us for New Jersey. He is a leader. He's a true grassroots conservative. He's a family man. And all he's done for the last 10 years is listen to us on the radio. He listened. He knows the issues. And not only does he know the issues, but he has the solutions and a plan to actually put them in place. I mean, you can ask him on anything. I had people over my house for Bill, and, every time people were like, wow, he's really good. He knows how to fix New Jersey. He knows how to fix the problems, and he's a true leader, and I back him 100%.
And what does it mean for you to be here tonight, surrounded by all of these people as well?
I can't even describe it to you. It's almost surreal for me. It's emotional because I've been so involved in trying to get Bill to win that I get so excited. I told some people today, I wasn't sure if I'm feeling scared, excited, nervous. I wasn't sure. I knew I was feeling something, but the energy here is unbelievable. Everybody loves Bill. We just have to hope that people went out who love him and voted for him today, and hopefully we can pull this thing off because he really is he's a Marine, he's a true leader, and he's one of the best people I've ever met.
And besides, you said his personality and his authenticity, what were some of his policies and other things that he was running on that kind of stuck out to you and to other Spadia voters as well?
Okay. Number one, his plan with affordable housing, trying to move it into the cities and move it away from towns that can't handle with the infrastructure. His immigration policy is fantastic. He wants to shut down the border. He wants to get rid of the criminal illegals. And, he has so many things that he has planned out already. He has executive orders written to fix things on day one. Bring back the plastic bags. the simple things, that kind of stuff. But he's fantastic. He really is. And, if more people listen to him when he wins tonight, I urge people to go on YouTube, go wherever, listen to him, listen to what he's saying, listen to what he's doing. Parental rights in schools, very important to Bill. He's been fighting for that for 5 years on the radio. So, listen, he has my support 100%. I love Bill Spadea, and we'll see what happens tonight, but let's hope he wins because he's the guy that's going to take us to victory in November.
John, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. Like we said, the energy here is electric. There is live music, food, drinks, and I've been seeing a lot of merchandise as well. We see the vests, we see the hats, everyone out here just to support Republican candidate Bill Spadea. I'm going to send it back to you guys, though, in studio.
Isabella, thank you so much for that report. I mean, that is one thing you cannot take away from Bill Spadea's campaign. We have, again, the AP has called this race, as has David Wildstein of the New Jersey Globe. They've called the Republican primary race for Jack Ciattarelli. Jack Ciattarelli will be the Republican nominee to run for governor in November. But that fan base that Bill Spadea has, they are very loyal. They are very energized. He just didn't have enough. He didn't have the numbers that he needed.
Well, look, running a second place campaign, which has been all along here, look at what we saw here. This thing was at the Ellery Pub and Grill, while Ciattarelli's was at Bell Labs, right? What can you say? It'll be interesting to see if Bill goes back to 101.5, his radio show, where he built his base on that radio in Central Jersey like that. So, but it'll be interesting to ask whether Bill Spadea is going to endorse Ciattarelli. But on the other hand, Ciattarelli's going to go, what does it matter?
Right. Right. Well, that's something that we will certainly be keeping an eye on throughout the night, and maybe we'll hear when he has his campaign speech. Right now, we are going to go over to Jersey City and the Steve Phillips campaign headquarters at the Zeppelin Hall Beer Garden. Let's bring in On New Jersey's Keith Taylor. Keith, so good to see you. What's going on there tonight?
Laura, a lot of positive energy here tonight. I would say the crowd was pretty sparse until about 10 minutes to 8. As the polls were closing, that's when the people started to come in. If you take a look around, there's quite a crowd here. Out the back of the Zeppelin Hall, there's an outdoor area, so there's a lot of people enjoying the nice night. And there's a lot of supporters here that really appreciate what Mayor Fulop has done for Jersey City, and they're looking forward to him doing the same for the state. Fulop has been mayor of Jersey City for 3 terms since 2013, and before that he was a Jersey City councilman and for 8 years, and before that he was also part of the U.S. Marine Corps, where he was deployed to Iraq, and he also has a financial background. The thing that people here like about Fulop is that he ran his campaign on change. He's a crusader against the old guard. He wants to get rid of the political corruption in Trenton and dismantle the political machine, and he seems to appeal to the much younger voters as well. He has a pretty comprehensive platform ranging from public safety and housing, transportation, education, health, and a lot more. And with transportation, he wants to do what others won't even really look at, it seems, is that he wants to do a reverse congestion pricing for New York drivers. And he wants to use that funding from that congestion pricing to fund New Jersey Transit. He also wants to modernize the Motor Vehicle Commission. He doesn't think that people should have to wait more than 30 minutes. So, I know Phillip's been saying along his campaign that he sees New Jersey Transit as unreliable and underfunded. He says that the rates go up but the service never gets better. He's opposed to the $12 billion turnpike expansion. He just thinks that it's going to create more traffic and more pollution. And he says this is a waste of money. And housing is a really top priority for him. He wants to double the affordable housing and wants to fix the fair housing system, wants regional transit development. And some of the big takeaways is that he wants to make the state more affordable, modernize the transit system, and eliminate corruption in Trenton. So right now, I saw an interview with Mayor Fulop a little earlier today. Right now, he said that he was going to be out running. He launched his campaign in April of 2023, so it's been 2 years, and so now it's down to the final count right now, and so he's just going to release a little pressure. You know, Fulop is he's a runner. He's been in Ironman competitions, and so I'm not sure what time he's going to arrive, but he's probably out on the road running right now. Jim, Laura?
Yeah, Keith Taylor, thank you so much. I mean, this is a campaign that, you know, I've seen campaign ads now, as Keith mentioned, he's been running for 2 years, and he's posing a bit of a threat, or would you say a significant challenge to Mikey Sherrill, who is the presumed frontrunner?
Well, we'll see on the numbers, because what they're doing right now in every one of these campaign headquarters, as Keith was saying, he thinks that he's out there running or something like that. They're in the hotel room upstairs, and they're basically calling people, their supporters, their organizers, the party organizations that they do have, the pockets of support they do. They had a turnout model they had to hit to be able to expect to win, and they're now looking at what the performance numbers are, because everybody in these districts around the state bring these things in or email them back to the thing. By now, 30 to 45 minutes, they know who won and who didn't, and now it's a matter of sort of like preparing your victory speech, or basically taking the speech you didn't want to write that you're going to have to pretend you like giving, and that's the loser's speech right now. So they know. They've gotten the results back in here. So.
All right. Well, joining us now in studio is the president of Montclair State University, Dr. Jonathan Capel. Dr. Capel, good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and you're a sponsor for tonight's election night coverage.
We're very happy to do, and it's a very exciting evening. I've been in those hotel rooms, Jim. I know what that's like, with the phone calls coming in and the furiously trying to figure out where you stand. It's nerve-wracking.
Jonathan, you had an interesting thing, because you had the ability to interview very personally on a TV show Montclair State does, Cooking with Capel, where you had, I watched a lot of those shows, right? They're really interesting. And you got
Thank you for being our audience.
Yeah, right. I'm sure there are a lot more on this. Viral and digitally propagated, it's all over the world now, right? But so what was your take from the individuals that you spoke to, and how they framed why they were running for governor?
So first of all, we did it because we wanted people to get engaged in politics, and I think one of the reasons to offer something different was that people are often turned off by what they see, right? A bunch of ads, very often there's a negative dimension to it, or they're highlighting negative things. What the cooking show demonstrated was that it turns out they're people, and quite likable people, all of them. And I thought that came through loud and clear. To directly answer your question, what was really striking was each one had a very personal story about why public service compelled them, and why they were running. And I think there is a jaundiced view about politicians, that they're in it for the money, or they're in it for some crass reason or ego. But each candidate that I talked to, because I asked, what is it about public service that compels you? Each had a very personal story, very different. Steve Sweeney talks about his daughter, and having a special needs child and seeing that it was not taken care of. You contrast that with somebody like Ras Baraka, who grew up in an activist household where his mother and father, he really didn't have a choice. He was going to be involved in politics.
I thought the one with Ras Baraka was very good. Why? Because Ras comes across as kind of stoic, the way that he is as mayor of Newark. And on your show, I was really surprised to see a side of him that was really homey.
Yeah, no, a lot of warmth there.
Yeah.
I thought the campaigns could have benefited by
showing
sending out these videos like, hey, look, this is a normal guy. I mean, I was thinking Bill Spadia was charming, right? We actually made some pretty good scallops. It showed what makes these people tick in a way that I think doesn't come through.
Who had the best dish?
That's an impossible one. I mean,
you're being political now. You don't want to offend anybody, right?
That's like, is it Taylor ham or pork roll kind of thing? Like, I don't know if I want to go there.
It's pork roll. But throughout this campaign, we hosted a number of debates. So you saw the candidates in that type of an atmosphere, and even the Democrats. Some of the personalities did come through.
Right.
But let's just talk a little bit about the bigger picture here and how education is a very big motivator. It is a very big campaign issue. It is why people are casting votes for or against certain candidates.
Right.
And you have a Republican administration talking about cuts in education.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about how education and that going into November is going to be or may not be a central theme when it comes to the issues the candidates are talking about who are running for governor?
I think it will be a big concern. I think you alluded to it, Jim, with Jack Ciattarelli's candidacy. How tightly is he associated with the Trump administration? Because education has been something that President Trump has talked a lot about, and negatively. Obviously, we're aware of that. We're paying attention, and the policies are really changing higher education, and they're going to affect affordability. Frankly, they're going to affect the affordability of higher education, whether you agree with it or not. That's going to be the effect. I think New Jerseyans care a lot about education, as you say, and I think the question is going to be: is education, high quality education, accessible to all New Jerseyans? And the candidates, whoever the nominees, are going to have to say what their position is on the state's investment in education and whether it's going to be accessible to broad New Jerseyans.
Unless they told you that secret of what they're planning to do on your cooking show,
right?
I haven't seen in this campaign the secret ingredient, right? I haven't seen in the whole campaign much really said about higher education in New Jersey. It's as if they're afraid to raise it because it is a matter of money. And even in the present budget right now by the outgoing governor, there are a lot of cutbacks in education, higher education, right? So why is this going to be better to get more money? And which of these candidates has said anything on how to reform this?
There hasn't been much, and I'll poke back at the Fourth Estate, because I went to the debate that On New Jersey hosted, and there was not a single question about higher education either, which I think is a critical error. If you want to guarantee a prosperous future for New Jersey, you have to have more New Jerseyans getting educated and staying in New Jersey. You have to have research institutions beyond Rutgers, which is a fine institution, but it has to be many institutions, because research institutions drive economic innovation, startups. That's been the key to success in places like Texas and Florida, and we need to replicate that. So yes, money is part of it, but it's also, are you creating the conditions where higher education can thrive? I'm excited that the legislature actually is looking at this, and I think that whoever is governor is going to have to engage on this question.
I mean, as a parent of teenagers, one is already in college, one will be going to college, and another one still in high school. I'm struck by how many students don't even consider New Jersey schools. They just go out of state. And I don't even see a lot of recruiting going to the students who are in state. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because we invest so much money goes into public school education, K through 12, and then students are leaving, they're not being recruited by these schools, and then you're losing out on the talent that we've invested in and the jobs.
Yeah, so a couple different things there. So first of all, we do have excellent universities, not just Montclair State University. We're very proud of what we do, but there are fine institutions up and down the state, public institutions, and some good private schools too. So there are incredible options. We have more people enrolled in New Jersey higher education than we've ever had, and the vast, vast majority are New Jerseyans. So it's not that New Jerseyans aren't going to college in New Jersey. It's that there are a lot of New Jerseyans who are leaving. And in fact, we're the number one exporter of college students in the country because we do educate our students well. The problem is it's a relatively expensive in-state tuition compared to other states. So lots of states in the country, not just neighbors, Alabama and Tennessee and South Carolina, they're happy to recruit our...
Oh, my son's going to Bama. He's going to roll with the tide.
I didn't say that randomly. So just let me finish this thought. Here's the problem. 2/3 of those people that leave never come back. So we have this peculiar situation in New Jersey where we have among the highest unemployment rates, and we have among the highest unfilled job rates because we have this mismatch. We're not educating our people who want to stay here to the level necessary to fill those jobs, and we're hemorrhaging talent to the rest of the country. So we have to correct this, or New Jersey's economic future is limited. It's not because we're not trying, and it's not because we're not recruiting New Jersey students. I think there also is a little bit of a self-esteem problem with New Jersey that people want to go elsewhere. So we also got to get some Jersey pride going.
Well, I know Montclair State's musical theater program is exceptional. It is extraordinary. My daughter did look at that.
What about the tension as existing in the studies that are starting to show that you don't have to get a Bachelor of Arts degree, you don't have to have something in literature. You should get a trade education or an enhanced vocational education with the computer situations that are allowed. So blend them, and that's better than a BA.
Both pathways are valid. I don't think it has to be an either-or situation. I think a college degree has a lot of value. All the statistics show that from an income point of view, from a health point of view, a college degree is worth it. But there are lots of pathways that don't require a college degree, and you can be quite successful. So it shouldn't be, is college worth it or is college for everybody? What I would say is everybody should have the option. It shouldn't be that you don't go to college because you can't afford it. It shouldn't be that you don't go to college because there's no place for you. Everybody should have the choice.
All right, we're going to pause you right there because we have some news to report. The Associated Press, as well as David Wildstein of the New Jersey Globe, has called Mikey Sherrill as the winner in the Democratic primary. Mikey Sherrill, again, being called as the winner on the Democratic side. So at this point, it is shaping up to be Mikey Sherrill versus Jack Ciattarelli. Not a huge surprise. I know we're going to head over to the campaign headquarters for Mikey Sherrill. Not sure if we have her just yet. So let me get your all's reaction to that. Jim, I'll go to you first.
Well, listen, Cheryl coming in, she's probably going to, my guess would be get about 23% of the vote. So one of the things she has to do is sort of go back to where she lost 80% of the vote among people and what they represent there, and try to heal that number and get them sort of rounded up. Because the Democrats are going to need unity this fall. Because as I said before, I think the advantage is going to go to the Republican and Ciattarelli right now because change is in the air. And Ciattarelli's not a bad, he looks like a Jersey guy, right? And this a big advantage. Right? I'm sure he was good on your cooking show, Jonathan, right? And, so that's their task right now. Plus, Mikey has to make a case for change. And that's going to be hard following 8 years of a Democratic governor because she's the Democrat looking for the third term of a Democrat. And there hasn't been one like that since 1961. So it's a bit uphill. Jonathan, what do you think of it?
Well, first of all, I agree with the first thing you said, that it's an unusual situation where you have such a divided primary electorate. So her first task is to get the 80% or whatever it is
that didn't vote for her, yep,
excited about her candidacy. I think that's doable, but I think that's the first assignment. And I think the question is going to be, what's the agenda that she lays out? I don't think it has to be a repudiation of the previous 8 years, but there has to be an establishment of a clear, differentiated
also
agenda.
Reconcile the progressive end of the party right now with the moderate end of the party, which is another big task that you have to get done in 6 months. So,
all right, we're going to head on over to New Jersey's Derek Dennis. He is live at Mikey Sherrill's campaign headquarters in Morristown. Derek, a lot of good news we're hearing for Mikey Sherrill's campaign.
Exactly. It hasn't been officially called yet by a number of media organizations, but some are calling it for Mikey Sherrill as the front runner, at least projected to win this Democratic primary. I'm joined by Senate Majority Leader in New Jersey, Teresa Ruiz. Good news, it seems like, for Mikey Sherrill.
That's the numbers that we're seeing. I mean, we don't call it until it's called, but it's showing that she's the front runner throughout the state of New Jersey, and so that warms my heart this evening.
A lot has gone into this campaign. There's been a lot of back and forth. A lot of the other opponents, the 5 other candidates, all men, sort of took her on as the front runner a lot and made a lot of attacks against her. but she stayed the course and seemed to ignore it, right?
So two things, right? Obviously, in politics, you can't take this personally because the game plan is that after tonight, whomever the candidate is, and the roster of candidates in New Jersey were phenomenal for gubernatorial candidates. But we have to make sure that the party is built up immediately in supporting the individual that the constituents selected this evening. And part of politics is the person who's leading, and she was been leading since her name was dropped in the race, is to aim at someone to try and take them down on the polls. But we women who are watching this, women know we're built for this. We're built for the criticism. So
what do you think the key has been for Mikey Sherrill? Has it been women voters? Has it been?
No, I think it's just, I mean, her story is obviously compelling, right? When you hear the whole thing. I know her on a more personal level, and one of the best assets that I believe that she has is that she's a phenomenal listener. That's great leadership practice. Someone who, you can have someone who is sitting there and not present, but someone who listens and internalizes that and then pivots messaging or includes your angle in policy making, I think is critical to anyone who wants to practice effective leadership that will be inclusive of the entire Garden State. The Democratic Party is not myopic. When you think about Latinos, right? We're not a myopic group. We all, each one of us has like a fundamental different priorities. But I consistently say this all the time. I think the reason why she really resonated in a way was, you know, I say this anecdote all the time. Sit on a porch or stoop anywhere in New Jersey and talk to a mother. She may have a social security number. She may be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. They all want three basic things: good quality education, making sure they feel safe, and that their next generation has greater opportunities than they have. That's going to look entirely different for all of our families in the state. But I think we can accomplish that.
Do you think Mikey Sherrill is already going to start looking ahead to Jack Ciattarelli? I mean, she's been...
We have to, as the Democratic Party, immediately coalesce, create a united front, because the march ahead into November is not going to be an easy one. And so, but it'll be one that is going to be very direct with messaging. And when voters and constituents, including independents who haven't decided, or even Republicans who are soured by a CEO of this country that is more focused on divisiveness, I believe she'll be the candidate that will bring those people to the table and cast a vote for her.
State Senator Teresa Ruiz, Senate Majority Leader as well.
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You know, I just want to give the look at the crowd that's gathered here. It's really starting to fill in here inside the Westin here in Morristown. These are all Mikey Sherrill supporters. They are no doubt energized by the word that's spreading that she's doing well in the early numbers that have come in after the polls closed at 8 o'clock. People are holding their signs. There's a crush of media here, not only from New Jersey and New York and Philadelphia, but also national media all here to try to get a sense of what she'll say to this crowd if she'll give a victory speech earlier than expected tonight, or if she's going to wait until every last vote is counted. We don't know yet, but a lot of celebratory atmosphere here inside the Westin as these Mikey Sherrill supporters file in droves. Back to you.
For that report, we will be coming back to you later on with what we presume will be a victory speech. Jim, and again, right now, as we're waiting before we go to our next guest, you know, you've been a part behind the scenes on election nights. What's happening right now, as this has been called by the AP and the New Jersey Globe?
Well, yes, she's preparing her victory speech, but they're going to wait for the losers to call. And that would be the courtesy, and that might even be a sign how quickly they call, how eager they are to reconcile for the fall. So I think what they're going to do is wait, because she'd like to be able to say so-and-so and so-and-so and so called me, and we have unity for the fall and the like, and then she'll talk a little bit about probably change and thank her supporters and the like. But right now they're waiting for the calls of the people like Gottheimer, Fulop to make those calls. They're probably going to be number 2 and 3, and that's the critical thing like that. So.
Okay. All right, we were going to go now to Joey Fox. He's a reporter for the New Jersey Globe. Joey has been a part of all the campaign coverage. He's a reporter for the New Jersey Globe, in on all of the debates with us. Joey, let me just get your reaction to the news that we're hearing. The New Jersey Globe has called it for both Mikey Sherrill and for Jack Ciattarelli. Over to you, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, so this is something that I think if you had told somebody yesterday, or if you told somebody 2 years ago that this was the result, that we're seeing a Jack Ciattarelli nomination and a Mikey Sherrill nomination, they would say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, this was fundamentally, everyone was kind of antsy about the possibility of an upset, especially on the Democratic side. The Republican side had looked pretty settled for Jack Ciattarelli for quite a while now. But the Democratic side, I mean, there was definitely, you could tell that a lot of the candidates were running really hard against Sherrill, and you could see their arguments for how they could win a statewide coalition that would kind of overcome hers. But at the end of the day, the basic factors that we had on polling, on endorsements, on all these typical things in campaigns, they were always pointing Mikey Sherrill's way. And we're just sort of seeing voters affirm that now. I mean, she is, this will change over the course of the night, but I think that she has twice as many votes as her next nearest competitor right now. So that's pretty definitive.
People have been talking about how unreliable polls have been in general and getting less reliable, right? For a lot of reasons, like people are on mobile phones and the like and don't answer their home phones and stuff. But one thing about both Ciattarelli and Mikey is that since the beginning, they've led different numbers, but even I think that, apart from a very specific number poll, how far ahead, is a statement in itself and it's proved out to be true.
Yeah, and I think it was really noticeable that you had other candidates on the Democratic side release their own internals, and even those showed Mikey Sherrill ahead. So that was the kind of indicator that if they had numbers that showed things looking better for them, they probably would have released those numbers, and they never did. So that was one of the reasons that I think people were more inclined to not necessarily fully trust the polls, but at least give them some credibility, was the fact that you had lots of different people coming at it from lots of different angles, and they had, some differences in the margins, but they all showed basically the same result, and it's the result that we're seeing right now.
Second, we talked earlier in the show about the lack of a line in New Jersey for the first time and the chaos that might be coming from that, right? But Mikey had most of the organizations behind her in the North. Sweeney had most of them in the South, but the South is only 1/3 of the state. Is this a case of where you didn't get the line, but you got all their support and their canvassing, and the word of mouth is as good as if it was in the ballot to say, she's our woman? She's our candidate. Did it prove that the organizations are still alive and thriving?
I think clearly the organizations, especially in certain places like Hudson County and Essex County, where they're really sort of healthy organizations, clearly they can turn out the vote regardless of what the ballot looks like. That is undeniable. I also think that part of the reason why Sherrill got a lot of endorsements to begin with was because county party leaders saw her as a candidate who would be a pretty good bet in a primary election. They saw her as somebody who could kind of pull this off. And I actually, ironically, the death of the county line may be helping Sherrill, because if you look at South Jersey right now, I'm just getting up on the New York Times website right now, Steve Sweeney had party support in Burlington County and Camden County and Atlantic County, the sort of the big core counties of South Jersey. And guess who's ahead in them right now? Mikey Sherrill. If you had a county line telling voters, here's the South Jersey guy, here's Steve Sweeney, vote for him, that probably would have looked different. But because you've got this neutral ballot, you've got the candidate who already has sort of clearly what is the widest appeal. And, the lot of money flowing in right at the end of the campaign, a pretty effective message. Clearly that is enough to overcome, the pretty strong South Jersey Democratic organization. So I think the fact that Mikey Sherrill in counterintuitive ways benefited from the end of the county line feels wrong, but looking at these results, it kind of seems like it's what happened.
Joey, we might have to cut you off because we're waiting for Mikey Sherrill to come out and give her victory speech, what we are assuming is going to be her victory speech momentarily. But what about on the Republican side? What happens now with Bill Spady? What happens with John Bramnick? Are they going to, do you think they'll be coming out to endorse Jack Ciattarelli? Will he be looking for their support? When you look at Bill Spady's campaign, he has a very, very loyal base of supporters. They're very energized. Not nearly the numbers that he needed, but they are very, very vocal. What happens to him and to those groups?
I mean, I don't know. That's something that I think we're going to sort of have to keep on checking in on in the coming hours and days. The Democratic primary was more competitive in the end, but the Republican primary was the more vitriolic one by far throughout the campaign. I mean, like Steve Phillip and Mikey Sherrill and Ros Baraka kind of sniped at each other, but Bill Spady and Jack Ciattarelli, they would get up on a debate stage, and especially the first debate that we hosted, it kind of seemed like they wanted to physically fight each other. Like there's some real animosity in that pairing. So Ciattarelli absolutely wants, any support that he can get, especially because he sort of ran as kind of the standard bearer for the core of his party, and clearly voters went along with that. But Spadia was sort of pushing him at the fringes of the right, and John Bramnick was sort of pushing him at the fringes of the center. He would definitely want both of those groups to come together for him.
And Joe,
but I don't know.
Joe, I have another quick question here to ask. We're on C-SPAN. There's a lot of national media up at Cheryl's headquarters and stuff, and they're all looking to say, what does this augur for Trump and the midterms, which is a little bit ahead of things, a lot ahead of things here, but for their sake, what does this really mean for the midterms and Trump?
I mean, I am skeptical of sort of making any sweeping determinations about, Donald Trump's popularity or about midterm elections based on a primary. That's just, even the general, has some asterisks, and a primary has a big asterisks. The two things I'll quickly say are, one, Donald Trump's endorsement clearly remains a very valuable thing. Jack Ciattarelli was probably already going to win without it, but I don't know if he'd have gotten this sort of overwhelming landslide if he wasn't the Trump pick. And the other thing I'll say is, in 2018, Mikey Sherrill was one of the Democrats who flipped a Republican-held seat, and she did so with this very, very committed and diligent message and sort of a profile that she brought to the race. Of, she said this all the time throughout her campaign. I'm a former Navy helicopter pilot. I'm a mom of 4. I'm a federal prosecutor. That was a message that proved extremely effective in 2018, and clearly it is still paying dividends in 2025. So as Democrats kind of look for what types of candidates to run in 2026, it seems like the types of candidates that they got across the finish line in 2018 and that flipped the House for them still have some mojo.
Joey, depending on who you talked to yesterday, when you're looking at the numbers and you're looking at Jack Ciattarelli, it looks like really a landslide. People were thinking, or I was hearing, that Bill Spadia was within striking distance. Do you think that was ever the case, or is that
this is approximately the result? I mean, let me get the numbers that are as current as possible right now. 66 to 23. I mean, that's a big margin, but that does not hugely surprise me. I mean, towards the end of the campaign, you just felt like what exactly is going, unless they were already a very ideologically committed Spadia supporter, what exactly is going to push a voter towards Spadia now? They Google Donald Trump support and they see Jack Ciattarelli. They Google immigration issues, tax issues, whatever, what have you. You'll find that Jack Ciattarelli has taken a pretty strong, conservative GOP stance on it. So the fact that this is such a blowout maybe would have been a surprise a few months ago when things were still looking dicier. But certainly talking to somebody yesterday, I think that you could tell them this result and they'd say, yeah, that's probably par for the course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joey, another question here. The runners-up, let's call it the nearest ones. Ras Baraka goes back to being mayor. Josh Gottheimer goes back to being a congressman. Steve Fulop, what does he go to? And some of the scuttlebutt around town, that might be real radical scuttlebutt, is that he would go back and run as an independent for mayor in Jersey City this November. What do you hear?
Well, so just on that last point, Jersey City has nonpartisan municipal elections regardless. So theoretically, everyone's running as an independent. I don't remember exactly what the filing deadline is there, but if he wants to get back in that race, as far as I know, he could, and it wouldn't be like a party thing. I don't really know. I mean, he was the person who, more than any other candidate, even more than Cheryl, kind of turned his campaign less into just, I want to be governor, and more into, I'm leading this movement. I want to bring change to New Jersey. I want to sort of do away with these rusty old systems. I want to elect all of my running mates to the state assembly. And that, by the way, we haven't really brought that up yet. We're going to be tracking that through the night, even after these big governor's races have already been called, is how these state assembly results are shaking out. There's at least a couple of districts where it looks like people who are not supported by the county party organization, a couple in Hudson, maybe a couple elsewhere too, are going to win. So that will definitely change the dynamics of things. I mean, that's usually in New Jersey in legislative races, the party-backed candidates pretty much always win. So that, regardless, is a sea change. And you'll kind of have to see how Fulop remain, if any of these people do end up winning their primaries, especially ones that are affiliated with him, we'll have to kind of see how he remains involved in their campaigns.
We've got the 2-minute warning, so I'm going to thank you for your time, and we appreciate your insight and analysis. And we do want to check back later on as the night progresses to some of those legislative districts that you touched on. But thank you very much for your reporting, insight, and analysis. And we also wanted to thank our guest in the studio, Dr. Jonathan Capel. We appreciate all of your time as well. Montclair State University. Yeah. New Jersey Election Night, presented by Montclair State University, continues in just a moment.
At Montclair State University, we don't just create opportunities, we transform lives. As a top public university, we deliver an exceptional, affordable education in the heart of the New York, New Jersey region, with access to jobs from Wall Street to Broadway and beyond. Students collaborate with faculty to develop real-world solutions in education, healthcare, science, business, and technology. Join a university that values you, supports you, and prepares you to soar.
Today, 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
We are the pioneers.
The visionaries.
The builders of a growing movement
with the power to democratize the old economic models
and create a world economy of the people.
For the people.
And by the people.
We are crypto.
This is the moment for us to make our voices heard.
We are the catalyst that will create a new world.
With our numbers.
With our voices.
With our votes.
We are crypto.
Thanks for staying with New Jersey Election Night, presented by Montclair State University. I'm Laura Jones, joined by a political analyst, Jim McQueeney, and we are also joined in studio by Dr. Jonathan Capel of Montclair State University. And as we come up on the 9 o'clock hour, the Associated Press and the New Jersey Globe have called both Mikey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli as winners. Mikey Sherrill on the Democratic side and Jack Ciattarelli on the Republican side. We're going to go check in with Derek Dennis. He is at Mikey Sherrill's campaign headquarters, where we are waiting. We've been told there's a couple of minutes before she's going to come out with her victory speech. Derek, what can you tell us?
Yeah, we got that word. I got it literally on my cell phone about 2 minutes ago. So we're a little late, but yes, the crowd here has gotten word, and all the media as well, that Mikey Sherrill will come out and address this crowd of excited and enthusiastic and celebratory supporters here. We're inside the ballroom of the Westin in Morristown. I want you to just take a look at the crowd that's filled in here through the crush of media that's shown up. Media from New York, from New Jersey, from Philadelphia even, as well as the national media. They're all here because this race was widely favored for Mikey Sherrill to win the Democratic primary. And many organizations, including this one, calling the race for her. And the crowd is just waiting for her to come out and give her remarks. The only woman in this race, in a crowded field of Democrats, 5 others beating out, notably the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ras Baraka, the mayor of Jersey City, Stephen Fulop, and the others. And already Mikey Sherrill's campaign communications director told me she had already started to set her sights on Republican Jack Ciattarelli, who's won on the Republican side of this Democratic primary. So the moment that Mikey Sherrill takes the podium, we're going to hear her remarks, but she is expected to come out at any moment. It was widely believed that she would win, and that's what the projected outcome of this Democratic primary is across the state. They've been playing music all night, including I've Got a Feeling. Tonight's going to be a good night. Behind me, just outside the ballroom, they've got, a cash bar set up. They've got a full buffet. I mean, they were planning for a party tonight, and that's certainly what they have here. So once again, we're waiting for Mikey Sherrill, the projected winner of the Democratic primary for the New Jersey's governor's race, to come out and address this crowd. As soon as she does, we'll have her remarks. Back to you.
All right, Derek Dennis, thank you so much for that report. We're going to go over now to On New Jersey's John Bathke, who is live at Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters at Bellworks in Hometel. John, what's happening right now?
Right now, things are really picking up. We're expecting another victory speech to be happening right here tonight. Let's have a look. The room has completely filled up. The Sheriff of Monmouth County, Sheriff Golden, a prominent Republican figure in the state, is introducing some of the folks who are here in the audience. So we are expecting that very soon that Jack Ciattarelli will be arriving here to give his victory speech. This race, as you know, was called just moments after polls closed. It was not a close race. It had polled as not being a close race. They were not expecting it to be a close race, especially after that endorsement by President Trump of Jack Ciattarelli. I just want to lower my voice right now for a moment because they are doing the Pledge of Allegiance right here. Can we just take a shot of that? So the room has really filled up. This is a year that Republicans are very encouraged about and interested in because, you know, the New Jersey governor's office tends to flip. It's in control of a Democrat for usually 8 years or 4 years, then it flips to Republican hands, and it has been in Democratic hands the past 8 years, so there are many Republicans who are hoping that that trend could possibly continue with this race. But it looks like, I just want to have a look, it does look like they're going to be bringing out Jack Ciattarelli very soon. Let's just take another look at the podium if we could. I just want to give people a flavor of what is happening here. Obviously, it's a very full room, and people are very energized and very excited about what has happened tonight with their candidate, and they are looking right now toward November. November starts tonight. November starts tonight with these two candidates who come out of these primaries. And so that is what we are looking at right now, waiting for Jack Ciattarelli, expecting him any moment to come out and give a victory speech after a landslide victory in this primary tonight. Jim and Laura?
Yeah, I mean, it is a landslide victory. And this is also something that Jack Ciattarelli, though, has experienced, winning a primary. It's winning that general election. This will be his third time running for governor. So we will see what happens. John Bathy, thank you so much. We'll be coming back to you once we get that heads up on Jack Ciattarelli's speech. Thank you for that. We are now going to go over to Ras Baraka campaign headquarters at the Robert Treat Hotel in Newark on New Jersey's Alvina Alston joins us live from there. Alvina, how's it going over there?
Hi, you know what? The room is filling up, and you know what? Despite the news, everyone is still jubilant. As they say, the votes really are still being counted, as those print ballots have not been counted, all of them as of yet. We have a very important guest right now. We have, as they call him, the chief campaign coach. We have Amiri Midi Baraka, who is Roz's brother and Mayor Roz's brother. And we also have Reverend Roundtree, who is an icon also in the city of Newark. She is the mayor's faith coordinator. Thank you guys for joining us. I've covered you guys for many, many years. Tell me, the mood today, we'll start with you, Mitty. Tell me about what you're expecting with the news of Jack Ciattarelli being declared the winner on the GOP side and Mikey being told that she was also.
I mean, I came in here thinking that we were going to win, of course, obviously. You know, we thought we had an opportunity to win. We thought that, you know, folks did not trust Donald Trump and all the Trump policies would, you know, push his agenda backwards. But obviously it didn't. Mikey Shure won on the Democratic side. And of course, we knew Ciattarelli was going to win before the day was even started.
Reverend Roundtree.
Yes, ma'am.
You have been on the ground, I say, I'm telling my age, for over 20 years since
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
been in news. You've been on the ground. Tell me what you think about what happened, the news we just heard together.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you what the real news is. The real news is Ras Baraka was a winner when he opened his mouth. Today he was born and was set out on this journey, not knowing he was ever going to run for governor. So no matter what the outcome is of this election, we are winners that stood on the right side of history because he opened up the eyes, he opened up the minds, and he opened up the hearts of some people to see some things that they normally wouldn't have been paying attention to just because they were listening to him. So in reference to this election, again, Mayor Ras J. Baraka is already a winner. We winners because we stood on the right side of history. And people are going to find out because they, instead of choosing, I should say, the right thing, they chose the safe thing. And in choosing to be safe, sometimes will lead you into a circumstance that you're going to be sorry. I'd rather be right and not safe because I know that I did the right thing. But to be safe and sorry is a whole nother thing. So I commend Ras Baraka, our governor. I'm going to still call him that because he came further than anyone, the African-American descent, has ever come. This man right here who led the drive, all of us, we were a team. We still Team Baraka for life. And we still stand behind Mayor Ras Baraka and anything. Listen, best of prayers to whoever and whatever, but most of all, best of prayers for our state and for our country, because that's what we have to start looking at now.
Mitty, I just spoke to one of your supporters that says the entire state of New Jersey is in big trouble. The state that we know that was once blue is now going to become a wave of red. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's red. I just think people are undecided. They don't know which way to go. They're trying to find real leadership. And the problem is that money is always going to lead people in elections. And that's the part that we're trying to change. The Democratic Party gave you nothing for the past 8 years. And now they continue to go with the same vanilla program, the same vanilla person. When people start to look outside themselves and do more, that's when they get better, right? And unfortunately, we tried to get people to reimagine New Jersey, and they didn't do it. They fell for the same money, they fell for the same mailers, the same commercials, and now they're gonna get the same result.
Thank you. Back to you guys. Now we're saying what's next for the Ras Baraka campaign. Thank you so much, guys. Back to you, Lauren, Jim.
Yeah, we appreciate your reporting. And, you know, you have very, very passionate supporters. It's not good news for the Ras Baraka campaign. But actually, I'm being told Jack Ciattarelli is about ready to come out and give his victory speech. So we're going to go over to Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters and listen in on his speech. Again, declared winner of the Republican primary in New Jersey's race for governor. Let's listen in.
Telling you the whole time things will be alright. Try to find a better life. Come on over, down to the corner. My sisters and my brothers, there for one another, won't you?
All right. Well, while we're waiting, we still have. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. Jack Ciattarelli, the winner of the.
We're not done. We are not done. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Right here, right now, in this magnificent building, an iconic location, one that embodies New Jersey's proud history of innovation, ingenuity, and big ideas. I accept your nomination as the Republican candidate for governor of New Jersey. "14 months ago, we kicked off this campaign with one goal in mind: fixing and saving our great state. Tonight, we took the next step in achieving our mission with a clear and convincing primary victory. Tonight, because of you, we won all 21 New Jersey counties. We won because our campaign is about people, not politics. It's about vision, not division. We won because of our positive energy. We won because we talked about the issues that matter, the critical issues facing our state, and my plan for a safer, more prosperous, and affordable New Jersey.
along the way, we also made a strong statement of what our New Jersey Republican Party stands for. A party open to anyone and everyone who's willing to work hard and play by the rules. A party of Jersey values and common sense policies. A party that believes our best days are ahead of us if we have the courage to think big and act boldly. To everyone here tonight, and all the people who voted for me and encouraged their friends, family, and neighbors to do the same. To all the people who knocked on doors, put up a lawn sign, made the phone calls, hosted me in their home or business, or donated hard-earned money to this campaign, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for believing. Thank you for believing. And to our most well-known part-time New Jersey resident who honored me with his endorsement and strong support, thank you, President Donald J. Trump. Love you back. As believers in our cause, everything you've done to help us reach this point is greatly appreciated. This victory is yours, and so tonight we celebrate, but for only one night. For tomorrow we get back to work, as the real cause for celebration comes on the evening of November 4th. And with that one goal in mind, let me say to the Republicans who supported my opponents, I respect your choice. The primary is now behind us. Let us unite. Let us unite. As a party, it's time for us to now speak directly to the people of New Jersey, to independents and unaffiliated voters who may have lost faith in both political parties and wonder whether their vote even matters anymore, to moderate Democrats who feel abandoned, alienated, and ignored by an extreme and out-of-touch, ultra-liberal Democratic Party in Trenton and Washington, D.C., a Democratic Party more focused on pronouns than property taxes, a Democratic Party that would rather coddle criminals than support our police, a Democratic Party that wants to tell you what kind of car you have to buy, a Democratic Party that believes it knows best how to raise your children, a Democratic Party that rewards illegal immigrants with handouts while our own citizens are expected to pay more and get less, a Democratic Party that includes people like Phil Murphy, who once told us, if taxes are your issue, a Democratic Party with leaders like Phil Murphy, who once told us, if taxes are your issue, we're probably not your state. Who once told us he wanted to make New Jersey the California of the East Coast. Guys, who says that? By the way, have you seen California lately? Folks, the Democrats have controlled our state legislature here in New Jersey for 25 years. And for the last 8 years, they and the person they nominated tonight have rubber stamped and enabled every extremist and costly idea Phil Murphy has put forth. Make no mistake, Mikey Sherrill is Phil Murphy 2.0. Make no mistake, a vote for Mikey Sherrill is a vote for 4 more years of Phil Murphy. 4 more years of the highest taxes and billions in wasteful spending. 4 more years of state-mandated affordable housing and overdeveloped suburbs. 4 more years of offshore wind farms and rising electricity bills. 4 more years of handcuffing our police, increasing crime, flat curfews along our shore. Like all of I've had it. It's time for a change. It's time for a change. It's time for bold, competent, and serious leadership. Leadership determined to fix our state. It's time for a Jersey guy who understands what people are up against every single day. Let's elect a Jersey guy that understands what people are up against every single day. It's time for a common sense problem solver, a chief executive officer, a hands-on CEO that knows exactly what needs to be done and is willing to do it. And after decades of Democratic control of our state legislature, I say it's time to give the Republicans the majority in our state legislature. Time to give Republicans a chance to deliver on what New Jerseyans so desperately need, change. And when I say change, I mean it. And I mean it for New Jerseyans, all New Jerseyans, including our minority communities, who the Democratic Party has exploited and taken for granted for years. I don't, I won't, we don't, we won't. "100 years ago, my immigrant grandparents made New Jersey their home. Here's where they provided for their family and started their own business. My parents did the same, owning a restaurant bar. As a two-time successful business owner, I followed in their footsteps. Folks, I'm running for governor, so to make sure today's New Jerseyans and future generations same for themselves and they're all right here in New Jersey, here's how we do it. Number one, we have an Attorney General who supports both police and parents. We lower property taxes with a new and more equitable school funding formula. We freeze property taxes for all senior citizens. We end sanctuary cities and us being a sanctuary state. We save our suburbs by stopping overdevelopment. We will reinvest in our cities. We'll get serious about reducing the size and cost of our state government and cutting business taxes to create and attract more jobs. We will overhaul the public school curriculum, ensure an age-appropriate lessons, focus on basic skills, and provide more vocational training because not all kids want or need to go to college. We will promote educational savings accounts, school vouchers, and choice so children are not locked in failing schools. We will adopt a rational energy policy that lowers people's monthly electric bills and stops the Democrats from putting those damn wind farms off our Jersey shore. Mark my words. Mark my words. While we focus on these key New Jersey issues, my Democratic opponent will do everything in her power to change the subject. Trust me, if this campaign were a drinking game and you took a shot every time Mikey Sherrill says Trump, you're going to be drunk off your ass every day. Drunk off your ass every day between now and November 4th. But every time you hear her say Trump, I want you to know what it really means. What it really means is Mikey doesn't have a plan to fix New Jersey. It means she supports Phil Murphy's failed policies. And it means she can't run on her own record, and here's why. In Congress, Mikey voted 100% of the time for Joe Biden's failed agenda of open borders and sky-high inflation. She voted for big government policies that crushed middle and working class families, making everything you buy more expensive. And if you ever needed any proof how radical she is on the issue of illegal immigration, Mikey Sherrill sided with the extremists in her party and voted no on the Laken Riley Act. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Here's something else Mikey did during her time in Congress. She got filthy rich. As Congresswoman, she bought and sold hundreds of stocks, more than tripling her own net worth to more than $10 million. And when she got questioned on it, she had the audacity to say, quote unquote, I got really lucky. Guys, as a former CPA, let me say this. Nobody gets that lucky. Nobody. The fact that she can't or won't explain how she got so lucky disqualifies her, as does her breaking federal law on stock trades. New Jersey, this campaign is going to reveal who Mikey Sherrill really is. It will also reveal how she'll lead New Jersey down the same failed path we've been on for years. In the meantime, visit MikeyMadeMillions.com. I was campaigning recently in her legislative district, and I came across a woman that said to me, "She's my congresswoman." And I said, "Ma'am, that's why I'm here. You vote for me, I'll make sure she stays your congresswoman." New Jersey, I truly believe the future of our state hangs in the balance. That is why, for the next 146 days, I will go about this race the only way I know how. Full speed, 100%, all gas, no brake, no brake. I will go places other Republicans don't. I will shake people's hands. I will look them in the eye. I will listen intently, and I will show them all the respect they deserve. And unlike my opponent, let me be clear. I don't want to be U.S. Senator. I don't want to be president, and I don't want to write a book. Most importantly, I'm not owned by any special interests.
The fate of our nation hung by a thread.
All right, we are going to go
American
over to Mikey
morale
Sherrill's
was
campaign
low,
headquarters
so
for her
Thomas
speech.
Paine
Let's
wrote
listen
the
in.
American crisis to galvanize a nation. He reminded people of what was at stake and why we fight, and he did not sugarcoat it. He wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered." And as always, New Jersey rose to the challenge. By December, General Washington led his daring crossing of the Delaware and turned the tide at Trenton and Princeton. And here we are, nearly 250 years later, and New Jersey once again stands at the front lines. We are in an American crisis, but not in a war for independence, in a fight for our future. The fight for justice, for liberty, for opportunity, and for prosperity. And once again, it is New Jersey's responsibility to lead this great nation. So, New Jersey, are you ready? I am too. The reason we were so successful tonight is because of all of you. I have spoken to thousands of New Jerseyans, and I've heard your stories. You told me about your hopes and your fears, your dreams and your challenges, and you told me what keeps you up at night. And here's what came through loud and clear. We love this state. I mean, we really love this state. Guys, I could write a book on the odes to people's favorite shore towns and diners. And it's because of that love that the thought of not being able to raise your kids here or stay to see your grandchildren grow is simply unacceptable. So you know what? In the Navy, we had a saying, shipmate, self. The mission was never about a single person. And I will tell you what I've learned. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who think that the only way to get ahead is to put themselves first, and those who understand that when we all do better, we all do better. Those people mentor others. They create opportunity. And I learned in the Navy that true leaders are servant leaders. It's as much about serving others as leading them. And that's right. And I have always been honored to serve this country and serve this state. So I want to thank everyone supporting me so that I can continue to do just that. Here's what I love about New Jersey. I love that you can hike our mountains in the morning and hang out down the shore in the afternoon. We are the state that has produced everyone from Bruce Springsteen to John Bon Jovi, Lauryn Hill to Frank Sinatra, Whitney Houston, and the Jonas Brothers. We have everything from the best bagels to bingsu, curry to cannoli, Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. This state deserves the best. A state like this is not going to be led by a Trump lackey like Jack Ciattarelli. And I am ready to make life more affordable for families. Jack has raised taxes at every level of government. He raised taxes as a council member. He raised taxes as a commissioner. And you guessed it, your taxes went up when he was an assembly member. I am going to protect your kids online and create a better future for them. Jack sold our kids out to powerful pharma companies peddling opioids. I fought for Superstorm Sandy relief and helped bring home millions for hard-hit New Jersey families. Jack voted against relief for Sandy victims 3 times, screwing thousands of homeowners at one of the worst moments of their lives. So listen, I'm going to protect our rights, including the right to an abortion. Jack has pledged to implement an abortion ban and to defund Planned Parenthood. I am ready to shake up the status quo. And Jack is the status quo. He's not changed, he's a rerun. He's a ghost of elections past. And I have fought for new opportunities my entire life. From my first oath to the Constitution as a teenager at the United States Naval Academy to this moment. I have always fought to upend unfair systems, and I am now going to take on systems that don't work or only serve special interests in the only way I know how, by running to be your next governor. This country is too beautiful to be beholden to the cruelty and self-interest that Jack and Trump are trying to hoist on her. So why do we stand here in New Jersey with the weight of the nation on our shoulders, with every eye in the country looking to us to lead? I think it's because we have a certain reputation. We may have a chip on our shoulder. We built a nation and people say the scars we have are ugly. We fund this nation and yet Trump and MAGA Republicans in DC want to raise your taxes and take away your health care and education dollars. The president comes here nonstop to his golf course and he calls our state a horror show. But come November, we're sending a shot across the bow. We are sending a message because it's usually the people who have something to prove that work the hardest. Hey, New Jersey, I've got something to prove. Tonight, I pledge to you, we're going to build something worthy of our state and worthy of our kids. With all of you, we can take on the tough fights and win. You saw it in this election. The Democratic Party is ready for the fight. We had 6 public servants run in this primary. Each had a different method, a different voice, a different experience. But we all shared one vision, a New Jersey that works for everyone. Not just the privileged, not just the insiders, not just those who look like us or pray like us or love like us. A New Jersey for everyone. Opportunity, affordability, community. That's what we're all fighting for. Tonight, after multiple debates, countless meet and greets, hundreds of thousands of votes cast, I know we are stronger. We have a clearer vision, and we are going to deliver for New Jersey. I said from the very first day of this race that this would be a campaign that we all build together, that I would listen to voters first and foremost, because we all have a place and a say in our future. There are a number of groups that I'd like to recognize who were with me from the very beginning. I'm never going to forget your support. So to the hardworking men and women of labor, the laborers and the FMBA, the grassroots groups, including the League of Conservation Voters, Chatham Moms for Change, MACTA, Emily's List, and Door to Door Democracy. I also want to thank all the party leaders and electeds who rallied their supporters and grassroots volunteers to help us have the best ground game in the state. And I'd like to thank my team, to those who've been with me since 2017, and to those who joined our crew this cycle. Your tireless work and commitment to New Jersey are unmatched. I am so proud of the team we've built, and I can't wait to see what you all do in the future. Both New Jersey and I are so lucky to have you in this fight, because New Jersey is going to be the place where families want to live, where businesses want to grow, and where children deserve every opportunity. Because this is the Garden State, and this is where you plant your family and you grow your dreams. So finally, I'd like to thank my family, especially everyone here: Jason, Maggie, Lincoln, Ike, and Merritt, Mary, Ellen, Kathleen, and Gary. I could not do this without you, and I love you all so much. So let me close with this. If Jack Ciattarelli is the ghost of elections past, then tonight we write the future. Because the future is built on hard work and hope. And here in New Jersey, we're known for our grit, for our tenacity, maybe a little bit for how loud we are. But it's going to take a strong voice to cut through the noise from Washington and deliver for the people. So I stand here tonight doing just that. And as a mom of 4 teenagers, you guys know I am not going to put up with the incompetent, whiny nonsense coming from aggrieved MAGA Republicans. So I am so honored to be in this fight, and I'm so ready for the challenge. And you know what? You probably can't do better than to quote George Washington in this moment. Fix the bayonets. I'm resolved to take Trenton.
All right, Jim, very different victory speeches from Mikey Sherrill we just heard from, and just prior to that we heard from Jack Ciattarelli. Jack Ciattarelli winning in a landslide. Mikey Sherrill, her numbers are actually pretty, a little bit more impressive, bigger victory than we thought.
Yep.
She's polling at over 34% victory. Jack Ciattarelli at 66. What do you have to say about the 2 different campaign speeches, or the victory speeches, rather?
I think Ciattarelli was like, they smell blood, the Republicans. And as I said before, Democrats have failed in 62 years, or 64 years, to elect a 3rd-term Democrat. And she, if elected, would be the 3rd-term Democrat. We're term restricted in New Jersey here. Murphy had 2 terms. No Democrat has gotten a 3rd term since 1961. Different person, right? So when you saw Ciattarelli's speech, I think it was like 0 to 60, we're at war. He was very, very aggressive. And he was very specific about the lament. And as we've been joking all night about Princess Diana's quote about her marriage, that there were 3 of us in this marriage. Well, Trump is in this race here with the both of them. But you said,
I'm
actually
saying,
4 people.
No, it's 4 people.
Murphy
it's a foursome.
would be in this foursome.
Because Phil Murphy.
And that's exactly the case. And the issue with Mikey's speech, she has a harder task, basically, to sort of heal the party, which is progressives versus moderates versus conservatives. And she has to then appeal to the independents, who are very, very fickle in New Jersey in the last few gubernatorial elections, right? As Phil Murphy found out, when not enough of them showed up for him, and as well as his base didn't show up for him. And that's why Jack the last time lost, nearly won by 4 percentage points. So she has to do that, as well as have a theme that separates her from the status quo to change. And it's very difficult to do because you're going to disappoint a lot of your supporters when you realize you can't be like Ras Baraka and go to that full Monty sort of progressivism here, because you'll lose the independent vote and a lot of your base. So she has a lot of, as the Beverly Hillbillies, Jethro Bodine said, a lot of thinking, to do about how this race takes shape. She has the harder job here. And her speech here, I think, reflected a little bit of indecision that they're not quite there with this complicated thing that they have to put together before they go meet Jack Ciattarelli.
Yeah, and I believe we're going to go back to Derek Dennis, who is live at Mikey Sherrill's campaign headquarters for more from the ground there. Derek, over to you.
Yeah, Jim and Laura, I wanted to first talk about just the timing of this. Less than 90 minutes since the polls closed, and we got a victory speech out of Mikey Sherrill, as well as the Republican Jack Ciattarelli. We were hoping, or at least expecting, a longer night than that, but this race got wrapped up pretty quickly. A couple of notes from Mikey Sherrill's speech. She talked about bringing New Jersey together, saying directly to Jack Ciattarelli and his supporters that this state would not be run by a Trump lackey, a reference to Donald Trump fully supporting Jack Ciattarelli and him taking that support and running with it. Mikey Sherrill also talked about the beauty of New Jersey, saying she loves the fact that you can spend the morning in the mountains and by the afternoon you could be down the shore. And she mentioned some of New Jersey's very own Whitney Houston, Bruce Springsteen, and others, really trying to channel the pride that many New Jerseyans feel in this state, really tapping into that. But it's clear, as you and Laura and Jim have said, Mikey Sherrill has an uphill battle against Jack Ciattarelli. He's got the Trump support. He's got a lot of Republican support. And she has to really galvanize a really crowded Democratic field. Supporters were split between Ras Baraka, Steve Fulop, Josh Gottheimer, and others who were in the race. And so she's got to appeal to those other Democrats who maybe voted somewhere else and try to get them in so that she can beat Jack Ciattarelli in the general election. An uphill fight for sure, but Mikey says she's ready for the fight, ready to win this election upcoming.
All right. Thank you so much for that report. We appreciate it. We're going to head back over now to John Bathke, who is at Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters, to check in on the ground there. John, over to you.
Well, it has wrapped up here. We heard the speech, we saw the speech, and very quickly the room starts to clear out. I just want to highlight a few of the things that we heard from Jack Ciattarelli in this acceptance speech tonight, and it really echoed the themes that we are going to be hearing over the rest of this campaign. He used the term a safer, more affordable, and more prosperous New Jersey. Look to be seeing that and hearing that a great deal in his messaging going forward in this. He called Mikey Sherrill Phil Murphy 2.0, and that is just a reference to more of the same. If you want change, vote for me, don't vote for her. It's just like another Phil Murphy term. That is going to be another theme, I'm sure, that we will hear throughout the rest of this campaign now, that he represents change. She represents status quo and a continuation of the current Democratic administration. And he also made reference to, it's time for a Jersey guy who understands the people. And he talked about he will go into neighborhoods that maybe many Republicans would not campaign in, and he said he will do that. And he's going to reach out across everyone in this state, to moderate Democrats and independents, everyone he needs to build a coalition. And also, he made reference to what he knows is coming, and that is one word: Trump. And he likened the times that you hear Trump going forward in the rest of this campaign. He said it's going to be like a drinking game, and if that's the case, you'll be drunk every day, because you will hear Trump again and again and again from the Sherrill campaign. Of course, likely that they will try to tie him to the president. Now, he was endorsed by President Trump, which may have had a great impact on his very large landslide win tonight in this primary, and had a great deal of support from Republicans who supported the president, who then in turn supported Jack Ciattarelli. So that is just summing up his speech tonight. It was a fiery speech. I do want to just have one quick look at the room before we say goodbye from here. It is starting to empty out, but there are still some people here, a couple of hundred or 300 or so, who are still here in the room, getting ready to call it a night, an early night, after a big victory for Jack Ciattarelli, winning this primary in his third attempt now at the governorship. Back to you.
That has been some really great reporting. And I also noticed behind you, the font and the logo has already changed. It says Governor Jack Ciattarelli already. So they're already looking to November. They wasted no time. Fantastic reporting there on the ground. Thank you so much, John Daffney. So, Jim, one of the other things I want to talk about, too, is, looking at the campaign headquarters and Jack Ciattarelli before we go to our next guest is, he's clearly, he was ready for tonight. He was ready for a victory. I was already looking on my phone. He made a reference to a website that he's created, Mikey Made Millions. I tried to Google that. That didn't work, but another website did. I don't even know what it is right off the top of my head. But that campaign started at 8:01.
As David Wildstein said earlier tonight, he and I have covered probably 24 together gubernatorial elections.
And I'm at 8. I'm at 8.
And I will tell you that this is auguring to be the dirtiest, toughest campaign for governor you'll see. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One, Trump is involved, and Trump money's involved, and independent organizations that flow a lot of money that the Trump world knows how to do very well. It's going to come into New Jersey because they do want to make a statement of some kind before the midterms for Trump. I think he'll convince the donors to do just that. And
because they've already spent more than any other governor's race in state history, in the U.S. history.
Yeah.
And the spend has been monumental.
That's how many were in there for a primary on here. But in this fall election, and it's going to start early, and it started with Ciattarelli talking about that MikeyMadeMillions.com, right? Mm-hmm. And, I noticed that even in some of the mail that started by the independent groups, we had this thing, we talked about this before. Mm-hmm. This is a negative mailer that goes out. It's impossible to see here, but it's a check made out to Mikey Sherrill by Elon Musk's PAC, reminding people of the money that she took and later returned to the PAC on here. That's mild compared to what's going to be happening through the summer. And I believe it'll be through the summer. Usually they take a break in the summer. But I think the Democrats are going to know they have an uphill thing here, never having had a third, so-called third term in a two-term limited state like this. And the money to defeat Trump is going to come from equally opposite sources. So this is going to be a battleground for reasons that it's actually not going to be a battleground, because the midterm elections is still a year from here now. And we have a U.S. Senate election next year with Cory Booker.
What if we said they should nickname New Jersey the election
state?
Right. It's always
the elections
about
never
the
go away.
Election. No.
Yeah.
In fact, there was even, you were talking in one of the commercial breaks about, looking ahead to Cory Booker running and some of the other issues that
Well, wait now, Bob, the temporary U.S. attorney is mentioned as someone who's going to be running against Cory Booker. And that'll be an interesting race. But once again, we're talking about the next race in New Jersey, right? And on the gubernatorial race here, I think in answer to your question, the Democrats are going to have to get united, and it's going to be a bit of a problem because even on the national level for the presidential thing, the progressives were one place. It only would have taken 2 million changes. The 77 million people voted for Trump. Only a fraction would have made the difference. And it was a sitzkrieg, not a blitzkrieg for the Democrats and Harris. And the Democrats are going to be concerned from Democratic fatigue that it's going to be a sitzkrieg for them this year instead of a blitzkrieg. You saw Jack start with a blitzkrieg on day one, and that'll be all the way through till November 4th.
We are still continuing our coverage here, and we have another guest who is standing by. Joining us now is Dr. Fannie Lobby, Associate Professor of Political Science at Montclair State University. Doctor, good to see you. Nice to have you here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's get your reaction to tonight. One of the things that we were talking with earlier at Montclair State University with one of our guests earlier on was the youth vote and the impact that the young people had on this election, this campaign. Your thoughts?
Yes, I think the youth vote, particularly in a primary election, is always a difficult one to secure. We know that primary election voters to be the people who vote the most, the people who are the most educated about the election, the people who have the most at stake. And so that tends to exclude younger voters who are not particularly sought after at this point by campaigns either. So I think it falls both on the voters due to their lack of interest in the election at this point, but also on the parties themselves and the candidates themselves. We have seen, though, both of the leading candidates make some efforts to reach out to these younger voters, depending on by adapting their messaging and reaching out to them through different platforms. But we do see a very robust turnout for this primary, and that's probably due to the addition of these younger voters.
Professor, one of the things about primaries is that, and you kind of alluded to this, is primaries are really populated in both parties by older voters, right? And when they come to the fall for a general election, they say they want the younger people in. But as the presidential election showed, younger people aren't engaged as much as you think they are. And the difficulty with this gubernatorial race is that younger people want change more than anybody else. But the change they want sometimes takes Democrats to a place they don't want to go because it's a woke world, and they're going to have to defend woke world on that thing, even if they're not really woke world, right? The Republicans would love to send the young people all the way over to the Democrats to make that call. So this is going to be an interesting election with the young voters in this November.
Well, I think what's been interesting in the last election cycle is that we saw, of course, there was this gap between younger voters, particular voters under the age of 25, who tend to vote at lower rates. We should mention, though, that these voters tend to see maybe more hurdles when it comes to voting than older voters, right? They sometimes have less time to vote. Sometimes they don't necessarily live at home, and so it's harder for them to figure out where to vote and how to vote. And some of the rules for voting do change from one election to the next. And so that makes it difficult to figure out how to vote compared to someone who, let's say, has lived in the same town for 10 years and is very comfortable with the process. So what we'll see what we also saw in November of last year was that the Republicans did make inroads with younger voters, particularly young male voters. And so what I'm looking to see this election cycle is if the Republican candidate in New Jersey is able to maintain these gains that Trump made particularly. So is Chattarelli going to be able to capitalize on some of those young male voters across different racial demographics that Trump was able to reach to in the fall?
Can you talk just a little bit about the state of the Democratic Party, and then we'll also get to the Republican Party generally speaking, because you had 6 candidates running. Mikey Sherrill came in with about 36% of the vote last we checked. But you know, it wasn't as contentious as the Republican side when the Republicans first started this campaign. Can you just talk a little bit about the state of the Democratic Party in New Jersey? Is it a fractured party? What would you say about it? How would you categorize and describe it?
Well, I think both parties in the US, right? It is a two-party system, but it doesn't mean that everybody falls exactly within these two narrow paths. So each party is a coalition of different parties. And so what we saw in the Democratic primary was really a representation of the different factions within the Democratic Party. We had the more moderate wing, we had the more progressive wing, we had centrist. We also had different geographical factions represented, with Steve Sweeney, for example, being seeking more support in the southern part of the state, and other candidates seeking more support in Essex and Hudson, for example. So I think the Democratic race was really an example of how diverse those political parties are, because we tend to forget when we use these labels of, you know, a simple label like Democrat or Republican, we tend to forget that these simple labels really represent a vast coalition of different views and ideas. And so it wasn't necessarily surprising to see at the beginning of the race different candidates really emerging to represent these different factions. What was more surprising on the Democratic side was seeing how sustained those candidacies were. And we didn't see different candidates getting together, merging their candidacies together. For example, one might have expected the moderate candidates to come together or the progressive candidates to come together, but everybody kind of decided to to stay in the race. And Cheryl eventually really took, I think, what's I would consider that a pretty strong lead. She's about 100,000 votes ahead of the next candidates. And so, considering the fact that you have 6 candidates in the race, and those are all pretty heavy hitters, that's, I would say, a pretty strong showing, considering how widespread the race was and how the quality of the candidates that we had.
So let's go back to the youth vote again, and then talk about the youth vote in November now between Chitterelli and Sherrill. Would, assuming that young people want change as one of their biggest issues as to why they would vote, which of these candidates do you think best embraces the change that young people are looking for?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily qualify young voters as seeking change. I think young voters pretty much want some things that are very similar to what the average voter wants. Maybe, if you think about the needs of young voters today, what do people need? They need affordable education. So affordability is very important to them. They need jobs, right? So the job market is very important to them, and issues related to tariffs are going to be important to them. And then there are also starting families, right? So issues related to early childhood education, schooling are also going to be important to them, or things like student loans as well. So I think change is kind of a very broad label to stick on that. I think younger voters might be, both parties don't necessarily do a very good job of reaching out to younger voters on the issues that particularly affect them, particularly when it comes to all of the needs that you have when you're starting in life. So education, jobs, affordability, people being in a position of renting an apartment for the first time or buying a house for the first time. Those are going to be the challenges for young voters. And so the question is, how is each party going to address these questions?
Taking the time to talk to us tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And we have another guest standing by, but I think that I'm not sure if that guest is ready just yet. So, Jim, I want to talk a little bit about the Republican Party, the campaign that Jack Ciattarelli ran versus the one that Bill Spadia ran. Very, very different campaigns, very different types of Republican voters in the state. Do those two sides, are they going to come together?
Well, I think they want to win, so I think they will come together, and they realize that Democrats outnumber Republicans and registered voters here, so they need to get together. I think one of the things is there was a poll about 2 weeks out that said tested the fidelity, the loyalty of Democrats to Trump in New Jersey. It was very, very high.
Yeah.
So Spadia really was dealing with an insignificant portion of that vote, and it was kind of doomed from the start because of that poll and that sentiment among they feel they're organized and they're behind a president. Democrats may say, it's a little odd, the president, but and not good on policy and toxic tariffs and all that thing, but that's to be played out yet. So I think Spadia was just really off to the side, and he had a loyal group that
Very
was loyal.
Very loyal.
That might have been the 8% that weren't with Trump in that poll, but they were there. It was interesting to see.
Baraka had a very loyal, very, very loyal base as well.
Yeah, well, loyal base, but not enough voters.
That's it.
Because the underperformance by the black vote, by the way, which is a chronic issue, and the Democrats losing Hispanics is another chronic issue, right? And in fact, losing some of the independent votes here because of this perception of wokeness here. It's a problem for the Democrats. They got to consolidate that before they go to war against Ciattarelli. But you saw Ciattarelli here talking tonight, and as the professor said, it's not about change. It's a very specific thing. And that's why both sides, even tonight, both sides talked about affordability. Young people wanting to get a house. They want to stay here close to their parents, but it's too expensive to live here. And so that's how you want to go at, as the professor said, that's how you really want to go at that young vote. And you can probably get them. The problem is there's not enough of them to make that big a difference, I'm sorry to say. It's still about 25 and above, and it's still about the independent vote, which is a lot different.
All right, well, we have another guest standing by, Alyssa Maurice. She's head of research at the Stockton Polling Institute at the William J. Hughes Center for Public Policy. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Not big surprises necessarily tonight, with Jack Ciattarelli winning on the Republican side and Mikey Sherrill winning on the Democratic side. But the numbers are a greater margin than some would have expected. What is your takeaway?
That's absolutely right. We knew that Mikey Sherrill had the endorsement of the counties, the big Democratic strongholds, and that gave her such an edge because those rank and file Democrats are really reliable voters in a primary when not that many voters are participating overall. But there was this idea that candidates like Fulop or even Baraka could be within striking distance. They were, particularly Fulop, he was counting on mobilizing those anti-establishment votes. He was hitting very hard on Sherrill. And so there was this looming possibility that they could come closer than we're seeing tonight. There was also the unpredictability of losing the county line. There was a question of whether that the loss of the county line would make those county endorsements less valuable. But I think we're seeing tonight that traditional approach that Sherrill took is still very, very effective.
So do you think that without the county lines, has it become more chaotic?
Yeah, there was this idea that we are in the Wild West now and that anything can happen, really. And, as other guests have pointed out, each candidate was targeting different parts of the electorate, different parts of the state. And so everyone did have a fairly unique lane to run in. And so, there was this idea that others could come in and undercut some of Sherrill's votes and come closer. Now we see that there was less uncertainty in this race than we thought. It was a little less suspenseful than we were imagining.
Yeah, and you touch upon a good point that we touched upon earlier, which is the line has disappeared, right, because of the court orders and things like that, and the rationale being it's better for democracy or whatever you want to say about that. But both Mikey and Sweeney had the most amount of organizational support, and the old support was put them on a favored position in the ballot line, and that was very, very helpful, and it kept the county chairman in power. But they still had, especially Mikey, to your point, they had the resources put to Mikey. She had all these counties, many of these counties in the north, and their soldiers come with it. Who are their soldiers? They're workers that they have. They do canvassing. They do a lot of stuff. They do stuff that you don't see on TV in a campaign, right? And it counts for a lot still. And I think that's one of those things why without a line, and Josh Gottheimer had 3 of the biggest counties as the #1 pick on the line, and yet it didn't hurt Mikey Sherrill, and I think she benefited from the resources of those organizations, if not the line. Couldn't give her the line.
Definitely, yeah. We see that it's not just about that position on the ballot, but it's the organizational backing behind it and the get out the vote efforts behind it. And it was very effective. And ultimately, those mainstream establishment Democrats are the most reliable voters. They're highly engaged voters, and they show up in a primary. And Fulop was counting on those anti-establishment voters. He was trying to capitalize off of that sentiment. And they didn't turn out. And Baraka, you mentioned that he was very popular among Black voters. He was counting on those urban centers to run up the vote for him. And we saw that just didn't happen. We had very low turnout in places like Newark that Baraka really needed to be competitive.
Well, yeah, we had mentioned that before when there was a call in some of the interviews that was going. They said they had to energize the community. Well, it's nice to get the community energized. It's better to have them vote. And a lot of the Black voter performance in recent years has been very, very low. And we were talking before, Laura and I, about Democrats are even having a tough job keeping Hispanics in their traditional coalition as well, because Hispanics, a little more conservative by and large, look upon the woke drift that seems to be good. The perceived woke drift. It may not be real at the state level, but nonetheless, it's causing a lot of dissension and underperformance by Blacks and by Hispanics.
Yeah, the moderate wing of the party is really the bread and butter for this party. Cheryl's voters, those suburban voters, suburban women in particular, she was really popular among. And we see that that's really where, that's who is going to show up. We'll see what happens in the general election when Cheryl is going to have to broaden her tent, and she's going to have to try to pull in the progressive wing of the party, those Fulop supporters who were anti-establishment and who wanted to, fight back against the political machine in the state. She is going to try to have to pull in some of those voters. So we'll see if she's able to do that come November.
Well, quick observation here that in the fall, the independent voters really rule the roost. Will she be able to bring a message to the independent voters who are not really adventurous? They're sort of, to use your phrase, middle of the road, by and large, around the state, that suburban swing vote. And how does she go to them? And you said put a big tent up. Is it a big tent that needs to be put up, or is it a moderate tent that needs to be put up?
Well, I think she ran a campaign under the assumption that she would be the nominee because she did run a very safe campaign. She did not take any strong stances that could, put her in a vulnerable position come November. She really played to that moderate vote. I think the 2 challenges she's going to face are she has to paint herself as the change candidate because, as you pointed out, New Jersey voters don't typically elect the same party for a 3rd consecutive term. And so she's really going to have to distinguish herself from the current Democratic leadership. And the other challenge is going to be energizing the more progressive wing of the party because she really is running in that more moderate lane that appeals to independents. But can she energize other parts of the party that are more to the left?
As you're talking about, we have the 3rd time for a Democrat. It strikes me this is the 3rd time that Jack Ciattarelli will be running for governor, and everybody's talking about this uphill battle that Mikey Sherrill has to face. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy road by any stretch of the imagination for Jack Ciattarelli. I mean, I'm wondering, to a certain degree, are we lowering expectations? Are the campaigns going to, I guess, what do you think the campaigns are going to be doing as far as setting those expectations, as far as they go and, looking to history? What do you think?
Yeah, Chitterelli definitely is going to face his own challenges. We know in 2021 when he ran, he didn't necessarily disavow Trump, but he didn't fully embrace him either. He was a bit more careful. But now in 2025, assuming he took notice of Trump's performance in New Jersey in the November election for president. He was a little more willing to embrace him. He was also facing a primary challenge from Bill Spadea, who was, painting himself as the Trump candidate. And so he did court that endorsement from Trump. But he is going to have to adjust for the general election. He's going to have to walk this tightrope where he is not embracing Trump too fully, that he puts off those independent voters who are not as big of fans of Trump. And we'll see, the national dynamics could change. A lot can change by November. We'll see what the economic outlook is looking like. We have recent polling that New Jersey voters are not happy with the economic conditions in this country. 62% think it's going in the wrong direction. And so Trump is going to own that economy come November. And so, Chitterelli might have to answer to that. So he's really going to be walking a tightrope there.
Do you think that we're going to see much of President Trump in this campaign? We only have 2 races for governor in the country, us and Virginia, New Jersey and Virginia. How will the national spotlight factor into this race? And not just the race, but the money that is infused into this race as well.
He will absolutely be involved. This is going to be a huge election for Trump because all eyes are going to be on it as a bellwether for the midterms. And so he is going to want this victory so that he looks like he's in a strong position come the midterm elections. So we will definitely see a lot of Trump involvement here. Depending on the dynamics, the political landscape, that could be an issue for Chitterelli and something that's going to be tough for him to navigate. But I will say, just going back to the Democratic side briefly, the Democratic Party is also in a bit of disarray right now. We have polling that shows that Democratic voters here in New Jersey really do not approve of the Democratic Party in Congress at high rates. Only a third in our recent poll approve of Democrats in Congress. So they're also going to struggle to energize their voters. So really, both of them are facing a difficult run.
All right, Alyssa Maurice, Stockton University, thank you so much for your analysis and insight. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And that's the other thing that we'll be talking about is the next election, because Mikey Sherrill's seat will now become open.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, can she keep that seat while she's running?
Yes.
So
she's still a congresswoman.
So she may not
until she's sworn in as a governor.
If she wins.
Yeah.
If she wins, but so she doesn't have to give up her seat.
Does not.
Okay. So we don't
unless someone takes it from her in the election next year.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah. That just struck me.
Yeah.
About the next election and what happens to Mikey Sherrill's seat. We're gonna find out what's gonna happen over in Jersey City now at Steve Phillips' campaign headquarters at the Zeppelin Hall Beer Garden. Let's bring in on New Jersey's Keith Taylor. Keith, what's happening there?
Well, the crowd has pretty much thinned out. There was several hundred supporters here, but it was a pretty disappointing night. And Steve Phillip probably only spoke for maybe 3 minutes. He said that he was very disappointed. He had high hopes. And that, he thanked his crowd and supporters, and he said that he thinks that the work that he's done has brought New Jersey to a crossroads, that people are going to pay attention to what he's been saying. He didn't really come out and endorse Sherrill, but he said that it's important that a Democrat be governor this year. And, when he finished speaking, the entire crowd, several hundred people, started chanting, Phillip, Phillip, Phillip. Now, with me is one of
Barbara Ann Riley
supporters,
yes.
Barbara Ann Riley, and
yes.
you came up from Brick, from down the shore.
I did.
And first off, tough loss tonight.
It was, and I'm so upset because he's done so many firsts in the nation and first in Jersey City, and he just introduced so many new ideas, and I'm just so upset that he didn't win. Of course, we'll support the candidate, but he did so many things. He turned outdated public housing into mixed income communities, and he introduced new ideas for the prisoner's entry, and he made Jersey City one of the greenest cities in the nation. So it's so exciting.
So what did you think about what he said here on stage tonight?
He was a true Democrat. He said, you know what, I didn't win, but we have to support the candidate. And that's Stephen Fulop. He's the best man ever. He is, really. He did. He said the right thing. He did.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. So, Laura and Jim, it's things have thinned out here, and there's a lot of disappointment. So what's next for Stephen Fulop remains to be seen.
All right, Keith Taylor, thank you so much for that report. We appreciate all that you've done throughout the evening. Thank you.
So it turns out, remember we were talking at the start of the show about how Fulop had the very best campaign commercials, right?
Yes.
He had
the most.
They were really good, right? And everybody said it was, and even some of the Cheryl folks were saying, "Oh my God!"
He bought like the algorithm because every time you opened up anything on social media, it's Steve Fulop, Fulop. For 2 years now.
Yeah, that's right. Whether it was social or digital media, or whether it was linear television on here, but. Maybe in hindsight, it turns out that his commercials were better than his candidacy. Like when you see how far behind he ran here.
Well, because some people were saying he's got a chance at upsetting Mikey Sherrill.
Well,
that was what a lot of the campaign, the insiders were saying.
Yeah, well,
if anybody was going to pull off a surprise tonight, it was going to be Steve Fulop.
Yeah, well, I said the same thing in here, but the distance margin on this thing is really surprising. And he had probably one of the most integrated media campaigns, which raises the question here, how effective is television anymore in putting your campaign across?
Because you're dealing with the New York and Philadelphia media markets, the most expensive in the country.
Mikey did an interesting thing. Steve spent his money all the way through, and he still had a lot of money at the end. Mikey Sherrill husbanded her TV money to the very end. And she did what's called a resume spot to remind people of all the things she'd done and all that shit. And it didn't really go heavy into the things she'd proposed. Fulop, by comparison, was very specific. He said he was going to end the corruption tax, and I'm going to go clean up Trenton and blah, 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 blah. And they were spending probably fairly equally toward the end, but Cheryl's spots weren't as good as, in my view, as Fulop. But it didn't carry the day.
What did then? What was it about
party
her message?
organizations?
It was all right. That was it. It's fallout from the party lines, not having the party lines anymore.
It's like you couldn't put your candidate in the front showroom, in your county. But what you could do is support that candidate as if they were, on the line leading your ticket. And places like, not mentioned, was Middlesex County, which is really becoming a power in the Democratic thing. It's taking up a lot of the power that South Jersey used to have with George Norcross. It's being consolidated, Middlesex and coming up here. So they gave all the resources to her. And all those resources are canvassing, knocking on people's doors, money, and literature. And it looks like, we joked before about all the literature that came in my mailbox, 33 pieces of mail in the last 10 days. My mailman had said, by the way, I hope they settle this thing out because with only 2 candidates, there's going to be less mail. That's what he said to me.
I haven't checked my mailbox. I was preoccupied with my son was graduating high school, so I going to open the mailbox and it's going to come out.
So it's a good lesson about television and how limited television is even now, and how important the discredited county organizations were. And I think that was a big difference in this election.
We have 2 guests now standing by. Joining us is Rosemary Becky. She is founder of Jersey First, and Alex Wilkes, a columnist with the New Jersey Globe, a Republican. Rosemary, Becky, good to see you. Alex, we had you on before the show. Let me go first to Rosemary Becky, just to get your reaction to tonight's campaign election results. Jack Chiarelli and Mikey Sherrill facing off in November.
I think this is going to be quite a race. And I think this is a great opportunity for Jack. As you know, I ran against Mikey in 2020. I think that at that time, I didn't feel like she really addressed some of the issues that New Jerseyans and in her district were particularly concerned about. And I think that's where Jack has a great opportunity here. New Jerseyans are worried about the cost of living, high taxes. They're worried about their kids' education. They want more choice, things like that. So I do think this is going to be a great opportunity for him, and it's going to be a really interesting race.
Over to Alex, and with you, Rosemary, myself, the women power here. Let's talk about the female factor when it comes to Mikey Sherrill running in November. The significance of that, and does it help her? Does it hurt her? Is it a factor? Alex.
Well, look, I think that the general trend has been that suburban women have been going more towards Democrats, and we can hope as Republicans to start to reverse that trend this year, given how unhappy people are here with the direction of the state and how expensive it is. Moms care about those pocketbook issues too, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be capturing them. However, what I will say, though, is that we saw in 2024 how President Trump was able to make major inroads into minority communities and working class communities, union households. And those are a big part of the coalition here in New Jersey as well. Those have been traditional Democratic strongholds that Democrats have counted on for decades in the state. And yet, nothing that the Democratic Party has done since President Trump was sworn in on January 20th, I think would lead them to go astray, particularly with the fights and the riots that we're seeing over federal immigration policy. That was one of the major areas where Democrats failed to meet voters where they were, even Hispanic voters. And so I think that, look, I think, of course, the women vote is incredibly important, and we as Republicans have to do better about reaching that. But there are other ways to skin this cat. And I think that, with the full backing of the White House, Jack Ciattarelli, who had a big night tonight, can do that.
Let me ask you a question here, more of a technical, nonpartisan question, but Laura and I were just talking before. Steve Phillips' commercials, I think most people thought were the best that were created from all the candidates, and it was plentiful, and it was bombarded into North Jersey and the like. Considering what, actually put the question this way, is TV becoming less effective a medium to stir up and motivate voters, whether it's a primary or the general election?
Oh, I don't know. I think people very much pay attention to the ads. And I do agree with you. I thought, Steve Phillips' ads were very well done. I thought he ran a great campaign. But at the end of the day, obviously, the backing of all the organization is what propelled Mikey over the finish line. But I do think people pay attention to those ads. I really do.
If they did, and Steve's were that good, and I'll bounce this to Alex here, why didn't it resonate? It was the commercials that were good and the candidacy that was bad.
Look, you also have to remember that, especially in the New York media market, up here where I live, you reach a point of diminishing returns at some point. Like you can't spend your way on the airwaves into power up here. I think that particularly in gubernatorial elections and legislative elections, mail is still king in a lot of these places. People will tell you otherwise, but the repetition that people see over and over and over again in their mailboxes, it does make a difference. I do think, though, at the end of the day, Steve Fulop could have had, Emmy-winning commercials, and I do agree that his commercials were good. But it is clear that Democrats were drawn into the organizational prowess more so than they were into the issues and into what they care about. I think that, you have a lot of disaffected Democrats. You have a lot of Democrats who are disgusted with the National Party right now, that disgusted with the leadership. They feel like their leadership in Congress is feckless to stop President Trump, and that's causing a lot of frustration. And we saw that Democrats tonight, the very few, I mean, we have to remember these primary elections are low turnout events. The very few that did vote, they fell in line, but the question is in November, will they fall in love? And, I'm not sure Mikey's so easy to love.
So Alex, I'd like to ask you a question. Your boss, David Wildstein, was talking about how many gubernatorial elections between the two of us that we've covered, and it's a lot. And on this one here, you look at almost the desperation of the Republicans and Trump wanting to, and I say necessity, if you will, to look good in the midterms and the like. And plus, they feel they have a real chance. And the Democrats feel, I think, this is a fight of their lives to preserve either in the legislature or the governor's place here. Despite the record of never gotten a third term, quote unquote, here, it's in 62 years. Is this campaign, with the infusion of money, going to be a nasty race? And I'll save you a little time. I think it will be, from all the ones I've seen, because of the desperation on both sides.
Well, political campaigns just generally are becoming these very emotional, tribal elections, because, like you said, people have really infused politics with their personality, their whole person, their whole identity in some cases. It's actually, I think, a bad thing for a Republican to have that much animation towards our elected government, which I think if people knew so many of our elected officials, they would find that they weren't really worth fighting for in many cases. But look, yes, you are going to see attacks from both sides. You're going to see a knife fight. And look, again, I think that Mikey Sherrill has not really, since redistricting, certainly she's not faced a tough fight. And before that, it was a district that was kind of teetering on the edge. It was, I'm sure Rosemary can speak to better than I. It was a district that was trending more Democratic, regardless, I think, of who the candidate was. I don't think that again, she has a good background. It's commendable. Nobody disputes that. But what is she going to do to make this state more affordable for young people to stay, and so that seniors can stay and families can stay together here, to keep young people here? I don't think her record in Congress has shown us in any capacity that she's capable of doing that. And moreover, and this is something that is not talked about a lot, but I think matters a great deal in this election coming up, is the fact that Mikey Sherrill called for a ceasefire 3 weeks after October 7th. That, I think, is a deal breaker with so many voters in this state, important voters that she has to court now. And I think these are, again, voters who are trending our way for Republicans. So, we will fight fairly on the issues. And I have no doubt that the Democrats will be fighting on her behalf, but she herself personally, doesn't seem to have that fire to her, that some of the other candidates bring.
Yeah, trouble with the Jewish community. Rosemary, I'm going to go back over to you. You've run against Mikey Sherrill. Do you think then this campaign is going to be, when we look to November, a more personality-driven or more issue-driven?
This is going to be about the issues. I really do. And who's more capable, just as Alexandra said, who's more capable of really helping New Jersey families, who's going to address the issues and what's their solution to the issues, right? You look and time again, year after year, we are voted the worst place to do business. We've constantly have the highest taxes in the nation. And so I really think it's about who's going to do the best job and who's going to address these issues and who's capable. You know, all of us want the best educations for our kids. We want, our children to be safe. And so I don't think that, people are just going to vote for a candidate because she's a woman or because of, issues like that. I think it's going to be more about, who's more capable of getting things done and frankly, getting New Jersey back on track. I really think that that's what it's going to come down to. And I do agree with Alexandra, there's a lot of things in Mikey's voting record that she's really going to have to address in this race.
All right, Rosemary, Alex, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We're now going to go to a couple of the concession speeches that were happening earlier while Jack Ciattarelli and Mikey Sherrill were speaking. First, we're going to listen in from Bill Spadia.
Wow, what a great crowd. Look, guys, let me just ask Jody, Elizabeth, Michael, Charlie, you guys know our family. Listen. So, what about it? What about it? Somebody once said that losing builds character. We built a lot of character tonight. It's all right. It's all right. What we started 10 years ago when we turned on that microphone and started talking to people about common sense is still continuing. When we built the Common Sense Club and built the largest grassroots organization in the state, we were just getting started. Tonight is just an indicator of how important all of you are. And let me tell you, we ran this race because we believe in something. We ran this race because we have to protect parental rights in New Jersey. We ran this race because we have to protect medical freedom. We have to fix our schools. We have to lower our taxes and fix our roads and all of the things that have been going wrong for 30 years. The career politicians on both sides of the aisle have failed. They have failed. Now, look, guys, as a Second Amendment guy, as a pro-life guy, Marie Tazy, I see you there. Thank you for everything that you've done. God bless you. We will fight to protect the unborn. I'm going to tell you this. I'm not going anywhere. Because, God willing, we go back to the biggest microphone in this state. And we've got a message to all the politicians on both sides of the aisle. It is not acceptable to have men change their birth certificates to pretend they're women. Not okay. It is not acceptable to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. It is not okay that we have the highest per capita abortion rate in the entire country. Not okay. Not okay. So it's now up to you. Because and do me a favor, don't get all distracted with social media. The haters are out there. They're gloating, all kinds of laughter and mocking. Don't let that get you down. We did not lose this race because of what we believe in. Look, guys, we had it all against us, right? They outspent us by millions and millions of dollars. They spent millions of dollars before we had raised our first dollar, and they told a lot of lies. And the attacks were vicious. And it didn't help that the President of the United States came in and supported a never-Trumper. That didn't help. But it's all okay. Because I want you to walk out of here tonight, heads held high, positive, thinking that we had an impact because we did. Remember something. The other guy ran on all of our issues.
Yes.
Our issues won this election. Now, it doesn't have to be me, because it was never about me. It was always about you. And I got into this race for you and for us. And I'm blessed to be here with my family. And I'll tell you, my wife Jody of now almost 31 years. One victory is that our marriage through this fight has gotten stronger. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have that. Another victory tonight is that the friendships that we built throughout this state. I said to somebody earlier, I said, look, I don't know how tonight's going to go, but I'll tell you, it doesn't look so good. But it was worth every mile we drove, every hour we worked, every night we didn't get more than 2 hours sleep, just to be able to call everyone in this room a friend. So thank you. Thank you for what you've done. I am blessed and honored and humbled at the incredible outpouring of support. Every one of you that wore a red shirt or a red vest, John Eckert, or the hat, right? Thank you for all the merch, George Nader. We really appreciate that. So we are feeling this at an emotional level that we love you guys. And the Spadias aren't going anywhere. Thank you. And I will make you this promise. I'll make you this promise. That as long as I have a mic, we will advocate for our police officers, for our nurses, for our teachers, for our small business owners. John Ellery, we love you, John. Thank you. We will advocate for the people that suffer so much in this state. It isn't fair, and they deserve a champion. Now, here's your charge tonight. Make them earn your vote. Don't just pull a lever because it's Republican over Democrat. Make them earn it. We know what we stand for. We stand for freedom and prosperity and economic growth and protecting families and reforming education and protecting the Constitution and all of those things. Make them earn it. Don't be fooled and just check a box. And if they earn it, great. Then you cast your vote. But your vote matters. It counts. Your advocacy matters. Now, I can't tell you exactly what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Well, I can. Actually, tomorrow I may actually sleep in past 4 o'clock. We'll see. But let me say this. Tonight, I want you to enjoy the fact that you were on this journey and we fought like hell. And every one of you should be super proud of how you performed. The results do not reflect the passion, the energy, and the principles of this crowd. So God bless you guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate and love every one of you. Thank you and have a great night.
So there we go for Bill Spadia. So I think, Laura, for Bill Spadia, as we talk about what's next for people,
next?
it's back to 101.5 on his radio show, I think, right?
Will he use that show, though? How will he use that show? If he goes back to morning anchor of New Jersey 101.5 in the morning, will he use that show to help Jack Ciattarelli? Will he use that show to talk more about the issues that he feels so passionate about? What will that look like?
His audience in Central Jersey was built on basically MAGA world on there. And that's what, ironic he didn't get the endorsement, but
yeah.
So I think for ratings purposes, he will basically talk about, talk up Ciattarelli, absolutely, and to some degree talk up Trump. But I think after a while...
You think he will?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do, because that's his audience. And if he starts talking against Trump in some material way, you lose an audience. It's the basic rule of media, right? You know, so, because I don't think there's a chance...
Well, he's a sincere guy.
He's a sincere guy, and he's
He's
a talented
sincere,
guy.
And I think that he'll want to, extend his hand out to Jack Ciattarelli. But that's a very powerful
But Jack Ciattarelli
platform.
doesn't need his hand. You know, I mean, he'll be. I'm sure he'll be a gentleman. Why antagonize a guy like that further? But Ciattarelli, I think, is in lock with the Republican base here. About 80% of the base, maybe 90% of the base. You know, as that poll showed, the Republicans like Trump. They like him. So he starts out organized, unlike the Democrats who have to do some repair work. Right. They have a progressive wing out there that's been out there. A lot of the things on ICE and open cities, type of thing, sanctuary cities, excuse me, is not in sync with the way independent voters are in New Jersey. And independent voters in New Jersey outnumber both Republicans and Democratic, and they are notoriously fickle. And when it comes to pick a governor, as you said before, 8 years with this party, 8 years with the next party, half a term, one term with Corzine, one term with Florio. It's more of a barometer of economic of how things are going, or whether you made a connect with the people. Brendan Byrne, back in the 1970s, they called him OTB. One-term Byrne, right?
That's right.
One-term Byrne.
I forgot about that.
And what he did was a clever thing on re-election. He flooded the primary, like you saw this primary here. Everybody was in that primary. And he was the tall weed that came on the surface here with a small portion of the vote, because he defrauded and displayed it and defrayed it, as the saying goes. But it's often a single note or a single incident that can happen in a campaign. And one of them with Byrne, who had a quick Irish wit, he ran against Ray Bateman. And Ray Bateman put up a Republican, ran up a program that was called the Bateman-Simon. William Simon was the Treasury Secretary then, right, under Nixon, right? And so he had a plan called the Bateman-Simon Economic Plan for New Jersey. The Bateman did, right? And what's the first thing? All the press came down. I was among them, all the way from Newark, where the press conference was, down to Trenton, where the governor was, the governor sitting. And everyone thought, oh boy, this economic plan is really great, really good, really this. Governor, what do you think about this plan? And he simply disarmed it by saying, what trust can you put in a plan that has the initials BS?
That's good.
That's very good.
That's good.
And he won handily, re-election.
He didn't have those one-liners as well when he was governor. It was after he retired, but not after he was out of office. He became really even more likable.
And there are two stories about that.
I know which one is coming.
Okay,
you're governor.
Well,
when
you're not governor.
You know you're not governor anymore.
When they wave at you with all their fingers.
With all 5 fingers. And you know you're not governor anymore when you get in the back of the car.
And it doesn't go anywhere.
And it doesn't go anywhere. You took my line. Well, let's go check in now, and we're going to hear from Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, his concession speech that he gave earlier tonight.
Look, there's a lot to process in these results, and a lot to think about is the truth. I think a lot about the last year and a half of doing this, and I truthfully wouldn't change anything. I think about the fact that I do think. Thank you. I do feel we were right on the message. I do feel we were right on our intentions. I feel like we were right on what we organized. Everything that we said, I think we were true to. And it's going to take a little bit of time to digest what happened, but I just wanted to take a second and say thank you. The hope is that, look, the state and what I said over the last couple months, I couldn't be more sincere. The state is at a crossroads. And although tonight wasn't what we wanted, it's important that we work hard to make sure a Democrat gets elected in November. That's important. I'm going to take some time, go on vacation with Jacqueline for a couple days. And but there's so many people that were involved in this process, and I think that people talk about this campaign, both good and bad, for a very, very long time. But again, all of you that hosted a meet and greet, that volunteered, that donated, that believed that we were doing something different, and that we did do something different, I can't say thank you enough. I want to also say thank you to my partner there, Sheena Collum. Thank you for putting yourself out there. And with that, thank you. It's a tough night. First time ever experiencing this, but the life goes on, and we'll continue to fight and make a better Jersey City, and we'll fight for a better state of New Jersey come November. So thank you all.
All right, so we know he's going to take some time, a little vacation time with his family. But then what next for Steve Fulop as mayor of Jersey City? He said he wasn't running. This is Jim McQueeney is running for mayor of Jersey City.
Well, there's a whole bunch of people running for mayor in Jersey City in November.
McQueeney's the big name.
Yeah, McQueeney. Lately, I've heard some scuttlebutt that there's a possibility that Steve might put himself back into the race.
Has he said that he wouldn't? I thought he said that he would not run.
Well, he said that already because he's running for here, but now he's not running for mayor, for governor because he's not a candidate for governor. But I also heard that basically there's a possibility that he may challenge Rob Menendez, the sitting congressman there, the son of Bob Menendez here. Hudson politics, and I'm familiar with it, I started out as a reporter there, is so volatile. And it's not the same that it is because of all the fights one month to another. So the primary is next spring for the congressional seats like this. So if he wants to do that, he can do that. And you can get little fiefdoms in that congressional district, right? North Bergen, Union City, Western New York, you get a warlords enough, and you can make a run in the primary here with their organizations to do it. But I don't know. So I'm not even sure he's made any
Keeping up with Hudson County politics, I mean, I need a flow chart to keep up with who is on what side and the alliances. It's fascinating and complex.
Yeah.
But let's take a step back now, as we've heard from all of our campaign, all of the reporters, just looking back on the night. Not a huge surprise. Obvious who the winners are, who the losers are of the night. We have Jack Ciattarelli and Mikey Sherrill. But what do you think the biggest takeaway, as we're reflecting back on the night is?
One, the margin of victory by Mikey. That's really impressive. I mean, I said before the show, I thought she would get 23-25, not what she ended up getting, which is significantly more. And I thought that the second place, with a chance of winning, would have been Philip. And I said that at the beginning of the show. I'll own up to my errors here. And that was a surprise. People said he was closing in, but actually it looks like he was falling behind. That was a surprise. The other issue is the strength of the organizations who supported Mikey. She didn't have the line because the line you can't have anymore. So the county couldn't bestow the favor of its endorsement by putting her in a special place on the ballot thing. That's all gone. But it didn't remove the financial support, the voter support, the logistical support, and she had a lot of counties all the way down to Middlesex and the like. Like Steve Sweeney had the county organizations down south, but it didn't seem to be very helpful there because she did even well there. Another thing to remember is that nearly 60% of women vote in the primaries, or 58% actually, right? And she was the only woman.
Yeah.
And polling, it's funny, Josh Gottheimer and her had the same pollster.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why I do that, but that was that woman vote. I'd like to look at that on the tabs afterwards to see how strongly they went. But she was the only woman. I mean, how do you get around that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what names we didn't hear tonight?
Sean Spiller.
Sean Spiller.
Well, you know what, Laura? I got 8 pieces of mail in the last week from Sean Spiller, and I'm wondering, why are you sending me? Why did the teachers use their dues money to put him in the race when he ran so bad?
$35 million.
Yeah.
From the NJEA.
Yeah. Well, if I'm a teacher, I'm not liking that. Those are where my dues are going.
Yeah. I mean, that
for a hopeless cause.
It is, and I don't know. Did he come in last?
Oh, it was toward the back.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money.
You think you read the room about 6 months before and say, I don't have a chance. Why waste the money?
Yeah. Right. That's it. Looking ahead to November, what do you think we are going to see? Is it going to be issue driven? If so, what are the issues? Is it going to be more personality driven? I mean, even just listening and thinking back to Jack Ciattarelli's tone and tenor of his speech versus Mikey Sherrill, Jack Ciattarelli, man, he's out there. He's rallying the troops. He's, the energy. Mikey Sherrill was making historical references. She was a little bit more diplomatic, I would think is a good word to describe it.
Yeah. Well, you said she was talking like a mother.
She did mention that her being a mother to 4 teenagers. I'm like, yeah, she kind of did sound like a mom.
I want to go back to a different thing, which
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
The Whitman-Florio race. Florio was an alpha male, very, very aggressive, like Jack Ciattarelli, right? Okay. Now, Florio was a Democrat, and Christy Whitman came up to run against him. And everybody said that she'd be run over by an alpha male and this type of thing. And this is before we really got sensitive. This is a long time ago and stuff like that. But she was steady and consistent and rode on the negativeness about Florio here. She didn't have to work that hard, right? Mikey might have a situation, or Jack Ciattarelli has to be a little careful here. You know, if you over-attack, and he does want to be aggressive, and he was very aggressive on this speech tonight here, right? But in a way, he's running against Murphy, the legacy of Murphy. Good or bad? Republicans say it's good, bad. Mike is going to have to say it's good. There's a conundrum in that. You're defending status quo if you're the Democrat and you're her. But she is a woman running in this election. And I tell you, you saw people predicting Florio would win because Whitman was viewed as passive, not combative. Tonight you might have said, observers would say, she was passive, not that combative. She was talking like a mother, as you said before when we were watching this thing, right? So we have to see how Jack goes after her. And it's a little too early to say tonight's speeches said something. Well, I think what it says is go back to Florio Whitman and see how patience by a woman outlasted the aggressiveness of a man. There's that danger for Jack Ciattarelli here. And if and then the other issue is though that Cheryl, she can't be a third-term Democrat. It's been 64 years since that's happened.
Or is she the one to break the streak?
What?
Is she the one to break the streak?
Well, or is she the one to break the streak? Yeah.
You don't know until
until November 4th.
Until November 4th, and that will do it on that note. Jim McQueeney, it was good spending the night with you.
Yeah.
Back again. Eight gubernatorial elections I've been a part of.
Okay, yeah. And it was good to do an election night again with you here. So after all those years of doing them together, to do it here in this studio, right? And be on C-SPAN.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's good.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. We'd like to thank you so much for watching New Jersey Election Night. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to stay with us as we continue our coverage of the campaign as we lead up to the general election in November. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.
Montclair State University, we don't just create opportunities, we transform lives. As a top public university, we deliver an exceptional, affordable education in the heart of the New York, New Jersey region, with access to jobs from Wall Street to Broadway and beyond. Students collaborate with faculty to develop real-world solutions in education, healthcare, science, business, and technology. Join a university that values you, supports you, and prepares you to soar.
Today, 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
We are the pioneers,
The visionaries.
The builders of a growing movement with the power to democratize the old economic models
And create a world economy of the people.
for the people,
And by the people.
We
are crypto. This is the moment for us to make our voices heard.
We are the catalyst that will create a new world.
with our numbers,
with our voices.
With our votes.
We are crypto.
At Montclair State University, we don't just create opportunities, we transform lives. As a top public university, we deliver an exceptional, affordable education in the heart of the New York, New Jersey region, with access to jobs from Wall Street to Broadway and beyond. Students collaborate with faculty to develop real-world solutions in education, healthcare, science, business, and technology. Join a university that values you, supports you, and prepares you to soar.
Today, 52 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
We are the pioneers,
The visionaries.
the builders of a growing movement with the power to democratize the old economic models
And create a world economy of the people.
for the people.
And by the people.
We
are crypto. This is the moment for us to make our voices heard.
We are the catalyst that will create a new world.
with our numbers,
with our voices.
With our votes.
We are crypto.